Good morning. Happy Sunday, everyone. How's it going? Hey, Mel. Hey, Chick. All right. Well, you have sweet dreams, and I'll see you when you watch it again or watch the replay. Hey, Nonstop Mom. Coolest reviews. Hi. Good to see everybody. So, what we're going to do is finish up where we left off last night, which is the testimony of Patricia Owens, who was married to Yaser Saeed, and she is Amina and Sarah's mom. And now we're on the cross-examination part. And then we're going to listen to that that argument from Friday, from Friday's testimony about about the medical examiner, and see if the medical examiner ended up testifying after lunch. Because thank you, Coolest Reviews, thank you very much. Because I want to see, first of all, I want to see what the judge ended up deciding, right? I know she decided that the medical examiner could have her attorney present while she was cross-examined, but they did a 15-minute break after the arguments back and forth. Good morning, Allie. And then they were going to call her after the break, but she was still on the phone with her attorney. And then there were like 3 witnesses, and then it was lunchtime. So I want to see if she was called, and then obviously what the outcome of her testimony, if she ended up testifying, what that was. So I don't, they did fix the audio for Patricia, so it shouldn't be as quiet, But obviously, if it is, we'll just do like we did last night. You guys turn your audio way up. I'll mute. And if I have anything I got to say, I'll just say, I'll type it in the chat, all caps. And then that way you guys can turn your volume down so I'm not blaring in your ears. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Oh, wait, let me do something really quick. Let me turn on the subtitles just in case. All right. And let me play her back at like 1.25. All right. Oops, wrong. Let me add this to the stream. And play.
Yes.
Your parents approved of that marriage.
Yes.
Your parents approved of other marriages, like your sisters around that time frame, correct?
Yes.
Did you also provide for the family?
No. No.
You also was not a provider?
No.
Who bought the iPhone?
The iPhone?
Who bought the girl's phone?
I did.
You bought the girl's phone?
Yes.
That's because you were able to work outside the home?
Yes.
And so you had independent income separate from Yaser?
No. The money I made, I paid bills. And what was left, he took.
But you did work.
Yes, I worked.
You had many jobs throughout the years.
Yes.
Were you also the one who bought the iPads?
They did not have the iPads that I knew of.
So if there were iPads and evidence that were assigned to the girls for their possession, that you would not have any knowledge of that?
No, sir.
Did Yaser permit you and the girls to have phones?
I didn't have a phone, but the girls had a phone.
Did Yaser know this?
Yes.
Who paid for the girls' clothes?
Their clothes. I did.
Okay.
When they was younger, my mom did. My mom helped me. When they started working at Kroger, they started
No,
buying their
Allie,
own
it's
clothes.
not. It's just the way that she has it.
And, you know, as we see here in their portraits from school, they dressed like any other American girls at that time, right?
Yes, they are American girls.
How many jobs did you work throughout the years?
Throughout the years.
Yes.
Several.
Okay. But was Yaser supportive of your employment?
Was he supportive of it?
Did he support you working? I mean, it sounded like you were a significant contributor to this family. Is that true?
Yeah, I paid everything.
She did coolest reviews. She did say Kroger.
What about the girls' school? They excelled at school, correct?
Yes, I did.
I mean, Amina was good enough at school and good enough at work. She got a work release from Louisville School District, right?
Yes.
As you as parents, did you have to sign off and prove that?
Yes.
And the girls were preparing for college.
Yes.
You and you also both felt that education was important.
Yes.
Very important.
Very important.
The girls had plans. What college was Amina going to go to?
She wanted to go to Texas A&M.
Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
And what degree was she wanting to attend?
She wanted to be a doctor.
Did she have any scholarships?
To my knowledge, she got a paper from one of them for scholarship.
So she did receive a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
Who filled out that application?
I did.
Yeah,
Did you also
Kroger
help her at all with her
is a
college
brand,
application?
is a
No.
grocery store
She
chain.
did that on her own?
Yes, sir.
Were you all aware of her
Nothing.
college
We just
application?
started, babe.
Yes.
Haven't missed anything, Amelia.
And your marriage with Yaser, there was a lot of back and forth. Is that fair to say?
What do you mean when you say back and forth?
On direct, you testified that you would leave and you would come back. That
Yes.
happened several times throughout the year.
Yes.
I believe the state started in 1998 with their timeline. How many times during that time would you leave and come back?
I can't give you a count. I don't remember how many times.
So December 27th, or excuse me, December of 2007 was not the first time that you had left and come back.
No.
You always came home.
Yes.
There was some discussion about the $4,000 cash
Mhm.
that you took. I mean, clearly, you said you also was upset about that.
Yeah.
Did you tell him that you were taking $4,000 cash?
No.
If he had taken $4,000 cash out of the safe, the family safe, would that have bothered you?
No.
You would have been fine if he just took the cash and didn't tell you what he was doing with it. You knew the girls dated,
Yes.
and you kept that from your officer.
Sure did.
You knew the girls were, I apologize, I don't want to be insensitive here, but you knew the girls were sexually active.
Yes.
You kept that from us.
Yes.
You knew that Amina had gone on at least the one date that you discussed with Joseph to the grandmother's party,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And Amina also, when y'all came back from the trip to Oklahoma, she went to Edgar's.
Yes.
And as you said, she wanted to go to the party.
Yes.
She went back to Edgar's to go to the party.
Yes.
When you decided to go to Kansas, whose plan was that to leave?
Whose plan was it to leave Louisville?
Who came up with the idea to go to Kansas?
Well, my aunt, my sister was talking to my aunt and told her that, I was leaving Yaser. And she said she had an extra house that we could come stay in.
Okay, perfect. It was your aunt's idea to leave?
No, to leave the house in Louisville.
Okay.
Was the girls was going to run away. And when they told me they were going to run away, I was not going to let my girls run away and be in the streets by themselves.
So you go to Kansas,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go to Oklahoma. Is that correct?
Yes.
Who signed the lease on the apartment in Oklahoma?
Eric. I mean, not Eric, I'm sorry, Edward.
Edgar put his name on that lease.
Yes.
How much money did everybody contribute to this plan? Was it all the money that you took, or did everybody put in money?
The money I took.
I'm sorry?
The money that I took.
Okay. I'm confused. On direct examination, you said you took it from Yaser, but that's not.
No, I took it from the box that he put his money in.
Okay. So Yaser did have access to funds? Did he have money of his own at all?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding what you're.
I'm sorry, man. I guess I'm just trying to clarify because, as you stated, you supported the family. But on direct, you said that you took $4,000 of Yaser's money and that upset him. Was it his money or your money?
Well, it would have been our money if we were married. But like I said, when we got income tax, he would take it. When I got my check and paid the bills, what was left, he would take it.
So you were the breadwinner in the family?
Yeah.
The entire time?
Yes.
So where'd the 4,000? I'm
You
confused.
indicated that, and again, I'm just trying to clarify the timeline here. You took one car on this trip to Kansas and then Oklahoma and then back home?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the Honda. What did you do with the Honda?
Put it in Everett's garage.
So Edgar's family was supportive of all this?
Yes.
How long had you known Edgar before you decided to get in the truck with him and move to a different state?
A couple of months.
And you thought that was an appropriate move with Edgar and Eric and your daughters?
Yes.
Again, I don't mean to come across insensitive here, but are you aware whether or not the girls and their boyfriend were sexually active with each other during that trip?
I'm not too sure.
During this conversation, are you aware of the plan for Kansas and Oklahoma? Are you aware that Amina is still in communication with Joseph and Marina?
No.
You had no idea of that?
No, she was not.
Is your testimony that she absolutely was not in contact with Joseph and Marina at that time?
When we got and went, to my knowledge, she was not in touch with Joseph.
So you wouldn't be aware that Joseph and Amina had put this plan together to ultimately reunite at some point?
How can they reunite? Amina and Edward was engaged.
They were engaged?
Yes.
He proposed to her?
Yes. And so was Eric and Sarah.
When were those proposals?
When it was before we left, not too, probably 3 or 4 weeks before we left.
So there was an official proposal and both girls said yes?
Yes.
No, I get that part, nonstop, Mom. But where's $4,000 is a lot of money left over. Do you know what I mean? So
You decided to come back from Oklahoma to Louisville.
I don't know. I'm just gonna
Edgar left
listen.
first on his own,
Yes.
and then the rest of you came back.
Yes.
Amina stayed for the party at Edgar's.
Yes.
Sarah came up.
Yes.
Sarah and Yaser have a long talk in the backyard, and everything seems fine. They're laughing.
Yes.
In fact, Yaser did buy her a SIM card when she got home, correct?
Yes.
And that's because she had broke those SIM cards or you all had broke your SIM card when you left,
Yes.
because you feared that his understanding of the cell phone technology would allow him to locate you if you kept those cell phones on you.
Yes.
And you come back and you also buy her a new SIM card.
Yes.
This is the SIM card that was with her on the night that she was killed.
Yes.
Yeah, he was, but she says that he worked when he wanted to and that she was the
When you
breadwinner.
went to get Amina from Edgar's house, did you have a conversation with his
Maybe
father,
she doesn't
Victor,
understand what
Edgar,
breadwinner means. I don't
your
know.
meeting about what was going on?
No.
You did not.
I was there less than 5 minutes.
Did you forcibly and physically remove Amina from that situation?
No, I did not.
Did you grab her and pull her and force her into the car?
No.
So if someone accused you of doing that, would they be lying or would you be lying?
They would be lying.
You said that Amina provided Edgar with some sort of recording before she left.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? What I didn't understand it.
It was for her camera. We set it on a little disc that goes into the camera.
Like a little thumb, oh, a little disc,
Not this. It's a little square.
like a thumb drive.
Yes. No.
Okay, so it's like that. If you plug it in, you can record something onto it, and you can share it with that person so they have the video.
Yes. Or you can take pictures and take it on that.
Or did you ever see that again?
No.
You're absolutely sure that this recording from Amina Edgar on the last day that she was alive was given to Edgar?
Yes.
Do you recall her saying that he had failed her?
I do not recall hearing that.
Do you recall her saying, this is the last time you'll ever see me again?
Yes.
So then you come home, and the family is reunited at the house, correct?
Yes.
Everyone's there.
Yes.
Yaser is apparently very happy to see his daughter again.
Yes.
He sheds a tear.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember that specifically and clearly, correct?
Okay.
No questions asked.
Nope.
I mean, he doesn't, where it's been, what are you doing? He doesn't start laying into her. He embraces her and no questions asked, brings her back into the home.
Yes.
So then he decides, or tells you that he's going to go talk to his daughters on just the three of them. Correct?
Yes.
And this is days after you had taken these girls to Kansas, Oklahoma to run away.
It was January 1st.
Is it possible that maybe he wanted to get their side of the story separate from maybe what you had going on?
Well, if he didn't want to do that, he could have told him to the bedroom to go outside.
Yeah, like he did with Sarah. He sat outside with Sarah and had a joyous conversation in the backyard.
Yeah.
They also sat at the family dinner table and talked about it.
Mm.
So they talked about it a lot when they came home.
Yeah.
And Yaser was welcoming.
Yeah.
Yaser was kind.
Yeah.
Yaser was not belligerent.
No.
For days.
Yeah. For a couple of days, yes.
I don't get this line of questioning because this is
So
There-
Yaser and the girls leave. You said you called him and there was this conversation about the gas station.
Yes.
Have you ever told anybody in law enforcement or any other agency about that conversation?
Yes.
So that is a known recorded statement that you provided to law enforcement.
Yes.
When did you provide that statement?
When I went to Urban Police Department then.
At that time, were you able to more accurately identify the time frame of that call?
No.
As you testified today, and it's fine if you don't remember, but generally speaking, do you remember what time that call was made?
I don't know. Around 7 p.m., somewhere in there.
Shortly after they left the house?
Yeah. No, I mean, probably about 45 minutes or an hour, somewhere like that.
So 45 minutes to an hour after they leave the home, you made contact with the officer.
Yes.
And your testimony is that you never heard from him again.
Hold on a minute. I got to pause this. Hold on a minute. Now, I understand her not remembering 14 years later, the specific time, right? But this is what I don't understand about this call. And I said this last night, and I'm even more confused now. All right. So Sarah came home with her mom, right? and Amina stayed at her boyfriend's house. There was a New Year's Eve or a New Year's party. They were having a cookout. Okay. So then Tizzy here, I'm sorry, Patricia, Tizzy, that's what they call her, goes and picks Amina up from the boyfriend's house and brings her back to their home. Okay. After that, Yaser and Amina and Sarah all go to Denny's because when Amina came home, she was hungry, which is interesting since she came from a barbecue, right? That doesn't make sense either. But whatever. Maybe she didn't like what they were serving. So she comes home from a barbecue. She's hungry. Mom offers to warm her up some pizza. Yaser says, no. I'm going to take the girls, the three of us, and we're going to go to Denny's and eat. And after 45 minutes or an hour, you're calling to see if he wants you and your son to join. But when you call, he is filling up the gas tank. See, this timeline is weird and doesn't make sense. I don't get it. All right, I'm going to keep going. Sorry, I just don't get it.
Were you aware of the FBI investigation about where he was?
Hey, Alex, good to see you, babe.
Did you know that law enforcement was looking for Yaser?
Yes.
Did you know that the federal FBI was looking for Yaser?
Yes.
Did you at any point tell them that you had heard from him that night, separate from that gas station conversation?
No.
So this is the first time that you've seen Yaser in person in 14 years?
Yes.
Good. I'm glad that's not making sense to you either, Amelia.
Knowledge of anything, of whereabouts, where he was, or anything that entire time?
No.
So despite all of your history and all of the things that you've been through together,
I don't feel so bad now that I'm confused.
Leading up to January 1st and the events of January 1st. In the past 14 years, he's never tried to reach out to you or threaten you or put you in harm?
No.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
No question, Your Honor. We would like to re-urge State's Exhibit 247 as a title consistent statement.
I'll re-raise my objection.
That's denied. Nothing further, Your Honor. May this witness be released?
I believe we should keep her for a recall.
Okay. Ms. Owens?
I thought they were going to ask her a lot more.
Stay in touch with the state in case he decides to recall you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back. We're going to go to Friday's testimony or Friday's trial, excuse me. And we're going to hear this sidebar arguments. So Alex, the way I only covered the cross-exam this morning. So what you're going to really want to do, babe, is go to last night's live because last night's live is the opening statements. Connie, the aunt, which is Patricia's sister, and then Connie's direct testimony. And then this morning, I just finished up doing her examination. And I honestly thought it was going to be a lot longer than that, because during the opening statements, the defense was essentially pointing the finger at Patricia and saying that bottom line is she's like one statement away from catching charges herself. And so, yeah, I thought they would press her even harder than they did. I'm really surprised at how brief the cross-examination was, although they did make her subject to recall. And the way that they ended the questioning was that was about what if this was the first time she had seen Yaser Saeed in 14 years, because there is allegations that he did contact her. Plus, there's a disconnect there, right? So her testimony has basically been that Yaser was very controlling. You know, she was not free to do whatever she wanted whenever she wanted to do it, right? She had to check with her husband and more or less get permission. Like, it's one thing to let your significant other know, hey, I'm doing A, B, and C, right? Just a heads up. So that permission is a different thing. And the way that she's testifying, it says that she had to get permission. And the defense is pointing out, but how much permission did you have to get? Because you kept quite a few things from your husband. You know what I mean? Which they're doing what they're doing what a defense attorney does. This is what their job is to do. And they're poking holes in everybody's credibility. So this is, yeah. I don't think you're chat bombing, Ali79. This whole case is sad. Okay, so now we're going to go to day 4. Now on day 4, this is when this crazy allegation is made by the defense. Hold on. About a potential Brady violation. Hold on. I want to get you guys to it, but okay, there's him. Give me just a second, because they do a few different things here. And so just by watching, like, hold on. All right, I'm getting to it. Kind of hard. Because they had gone to break, and then this just like completely kicked off. Where it was so, like, when we were watching it live, it was so. All right, hold on. I got it now. All right, we're going to watch now. Let me share screen. So I want you guys to watch this, because I've never seen anything like this in my life. And then we'll find out if she ends up testifying after lunch, and if she does what she says. All right.
Immediately. Mr. Lawler?
Thank you. Do we have permission to retire this witness?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Why is this not working? All right, ready? All right, here we go.
Let the record reflect that the defendant is present.
Hey, Bowling with Cotton Balls, good to see you. Not your mama, good to see you too.
Okay, we have the medical examiner.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Amelia. I don't think they
By the state.
are going to, they didn't release her. I think they're going to bring her back.
Mr. Lawler?
Thank you. Do we have permission to retire this witness?
Go ahead.
Thank you. You are Dr. Amy Gruzecki,
Yes,
and can you spell your last name?
Gruszecki.
And you were a medical examiner with the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office.
Yes.
And who's the chief out there at the time you were employed there and chief still?
Who is the chief? Was the chief then is Dr. Jeffrey Bernard.
I'm sorry?
At the time I was employed, it was Dr. Jeffrey Bernard.
Oh.
Yes.
Then and now.
Yes, sir.
What was his name?
Jeffrey Bernard.
Yes. Mark.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Can you bring the microphone closer?
When did you leave the employee of the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office?
November of 2009.
Okay. And is it true, Dr. Grzeski, you were given a choice of leaving on your own, not resigning, or be fired?
Yes.
Okay. And that was over the issue of you falsifying documents, particularly using sick leave when you were moonlighting and testifying in other cases, jurisdictions.
I did not falsify documents. I used a sick leave.
That's
And
what they believe.
that correct. I did not falsify documents. I used a sick day when my son was sick. And I had to also testify in a homicide trial in Mississippi. But I did not falsify any documents.
Now, the cases that you had been assigned to at the time you resigned were reassigned to other medical examiners. Is that correct?
That was not my choice. That was theirs. Yes, sir.
Sorry,
That was not my choice. That was theirs.
but they were reassigned to other medical examiners.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? And you're familiar with the fact that they found fundamental errors that you had made in your examinations, and all your cases had to be gone through again.
I'm not familiar with any of that. I was never made aware of any of that.
And you are familiar with the fact that this DA's office, the Dallas County District Attorney's Office, would not call you and would not verify your credentials or your abilities or your capabilities.
Objection, that is not true.
It is true.
Well, the state can transfer witnesses. Go ahead, Mr. Lowe.
Is that correct?
I'm not aware of any of that.
Okay. And in fact, that issue, have you ever been banned from testifying by the Dallas County District Attorney's Office?
Not to my knowledge. I have testified in Dallas County since. I've also been here as a defense witness as well.
And have you heard, you know what Brady information is?
I am. Yes.
You're familiar with what Brady information is?
Yes.
In the legal sense?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the fact that the DA's office used to put you on a Brady list?
I'm familiar with that. Yes.
You're familiar with that?
Yes.
And all this previous information, which we've now gone through, was what was disclosed to the defense in those cases. Is that correct?
I don't know what was disclosed to a DA's. I don't know what was on a Brady list.
Did you know that you were on the Brady list?
I'm aware that I was on a Brady list previously.
That's all the question we have.
Thank you. State, you were,
All right, hold on.
you resigned in
So let me explain what that is. Okay. I'm going to give it to you verbatim so we can be 100% accurate, because you guys know I feel very strongly about the term Brady violation and what a Brady what exactly constitutes a Brady violation and all of that business. So and I'm Googling out Brady list, Texas. All right. You ready? All right, here we go. Tell y'all what it is as it pertains to Texas. Below is the Texas Brady list. The list includes all known issues of police misconduct, do not call status, decertification, public complaints, use of force reports, and citizen reports. This information has been curated by journalists and private citizens. Oh, wait, that's not the right one I want. Sorry, my bad. Haha. All right, here we go. My bad. This is what I wanted to tell you guys. All right. What is a Brady list? These lists contain information about members of law enforcement who are not strictly credible. Prosecutors are responsible for keeping these lists maintained. They were first created due to the results of Brady versus Maryland Supreme Court case. So, what they're saying is, hey, Summer Lilacs. What they're saying, what the defense is saying is she was placed on a Brady list by the Dallas prosecutor's office as somebody not to call because she's got credibility issues. That's what that is. That's what they're saying. Okay. Previously, what? Bowling with cotton balls. Previously employed. She was previously employed by the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office. She was apparently given a choice between resignation or being fired, and she chose resignation. Now, what the defense is alleging is that the request for her to either resign or to be fired was due to her falsifying timesheets and saying that she was taking sick time when in fact what she was doing is moonlighting and testifying in other cases. They don't really clarify whether or not she is still on the list, but I will say this. If she's no longer employed by the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office, there would be no need for her to be on a Brady list anymore. They only keep those they would only keep her on a Brady list if she was still employed. You know what I mean? I'm glad you caught me live again too, Summer. It's good to have you. All right. So now it's going to be the prosecution's turn to question her. And this is interesting because now I've seen voir dires done on expert testimony during a trial before, but not a medical examiner. Like once the trial has already started. You know what I mean? How can I put this? No, what I'm saying is in the middle of the trial. That's what I should say, because obviously they do voir dire, but and that's part of the trial. But what I'm saying is this is in the middle of the trial. The trial's already underway and it's a medical examiner. This is the woman who performed the autopsy. So this is highly unusual. I've not seen this before. So, all right, now let's play it. All right, I'll be quiet now. Here we go.
2009, November 2009?
Yes,
At the time, 2008, when this autopsy was done, there was no issue with you and Swift at the time, is that correct?
correct.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Well, fundamental error is fundamental error. And that's what they found you had engaged in examination. Is that correct?
That's untrue, sir. I had no problem with my autopsy reports. I've had testified since then in many trials since then. I had no problem with any of mine. I've been accepted as a witness in court many times since then, in many courts since then. I've had no problem. I have a fundamental problem with you making these allegations because they are absolutely untrue. It is very common for the Dallas County Court to use other medical examiners to testify for other forensic pathologists who have left since then. It is untrue that I have had fundamental errors. None of this has ever been brought to my attention in any way, shape, or form. I have never had fundamental errors with my autopsy reports. I have never been shown to be an incompetent forensic pathologist. That is untrue. Absolutely untrue.
And that's what Dr. Bernard was saying?
I don't know what Dr. Bernard would say, but he is.
So, I understand that you're upset, but wait for the questions before you make the responses, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Mr. Lawler, you were saying, did you have a question?
Yes. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No, well, except, Your Honor, the state is asking that he not be allowed to go into any kind of general things about fundamental errors, that she resigned from Swift's, obviously, but not any kind of specific instances of conduct regarding sick leave or broad generalizations about fundamental errors in which we have no information on. It's going into specific instances of conduct that is improper.
It's not improper. It's perfectly admissible cross-examination of the witness. And all of this should have been disclosed by the state under Brady. It was not, never has been disclosed by them under Brady. So again, we move for mistrial.
Okay, so where did you get this information from?
Dr. Bernard,
The state.
Did the state make any disclosures?
Yes, Your Honor, the state does its beautiful Brady disclosures on Dr. Krusecki.
That was turned over to the defense?
Yes.
July 15, 2022.
Via text share?
Via text, Your Honor. I can. have anything with the court, it's just to see that.
This is a
Okay, so
mess.
we'll offer it as an exhibit if you'd like. But also under Rule 608, going into specific instances of conduct is improper to impeach this witness's credibility. Moreover, this fundamental error is just a general thing that Mr. Lawler is talking about. There is no information at all contained within that.
Mr. Lawler, I'm interested in where you get this fundamental error lingo from. Were there any judgments from other cases where, this witness, hold on one second.
Of course, pleasure.
Let me finish my question, Mr. Lawler. Allow me to finish my question, okay? All right. I'm asking you if there are any cases where this witness testified that was reversed for a fundamental error.
Fundamental errors, in my definition, is when she falsely describes the cause and
I'm
manner of
asking you
death.
about fundamental errors in appellate procedure.
Cause and manner of death.
Are there any cases that were reversed due to this witness's testimony?
I don't know about that.
Okay, then I would instruct you, I would instruct you not to use that language.
Okay, I won't use that language.
Is there anything else?
Well, we would also ask that he not, I will certainly get out she resigned from Swifts, but not to get into the specific instances of conduct under which she resigned.
The defense is entitled to impeach this witness in any manner that they choose with whatever information the state has provided them on cross.
I would still argue under 608 though, the witness's character, in 608B, that it's improper to go into specific instances of conduct to impeach a witness.
Thank you. If there's nothing else.
Except for criminal conviction, I'm sorry.
I understand. Well, this witness does not have any criminal convictions, but as I said, the defense is allowed to use whatever information that the state has turned over to them regarding this witness as impeachment material.
Okay.
Okay, let's line up the jurors.
No, I mean, first, wait and see what the state says they gave us. Rating wise,
The defense would have should have gone over all this information before today.
Your Honor, I think we just want to make sure it's the same information that was provided to us before today.
July 15th, 2022. There were two separate files marked Brady check. Excuse me, screenshot two, Brady disclosure image, and I believe that's Brady check. And disclosure image. Swips in parentheses, in documents in ACMS, or texture is a corporate printer.
now we're gonna have to call Dr. Bernard. The information that they give here is only that she falsified a timesheet for Dr. Bernard, not about the errors that were found in the examinations that she had previously done when they took over all her cases.
The defense is entitled to call whichever witnesses they choose.
But this Brady information is incomplete.
Oh, this is a mess.
Your Honor, we're going to offer this as state specific. The state's
States exhibit.
Get it together, sis, and then speak, babe.
248 for record purposes, Your Honor.
Any objection by the defense?
No objection.
Which exhibit number is that, 248?
248, Your Honor.
And describe 248 for the record.
It describes the Brady information that was turned over to the defense regarding Dr. Grizzetti on our list, a free list.
Well, state's exhibit number 248 is admitted for record purposes only.
Thank you.
Is there anything else before we bring the jurors in?
Did we take a momentary break?
No,
We have not been allowed.
we just took a break. It's been about 20 minutes now.
We have not been allowed to leave the courtroom.
Deputy, would you ask Sheriff to bring the jurors in?
Your Honor, I would like to please take a step down and call my attorney, please.
Hang on.
Okay. Ask Deputy Hart to send the jurors back to the.
Jeez. All
Yes,
right.
ma'am. Is that okay?
Okay, we're on the record. Okay. Let the record reflect that we are still outside the presence of the jury. The the defendant is present with his attorney, the state is present, and the medical examiner has requested an attorney. Is that right, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm being falsely accused of things that I did not do.
Thank you. You can step down.
Thank you.
Okay, so now having watched this back a second time, now I understand what the deal is. So what the defense is saying is, yeah, you sent us over the Brady list about through Brady, you sent us over the situation with the medical examiner, Dr. Brusecki, right? What you didn't send over is what Dr. Bernard found when he took over her cases. That's what they're arguing the Brady violation is that through their own investigation and questioning of Dr. Bernard, that it's been alleged that there were fundamental errors in her autopsy reports. And so that what they're also alleging is if it's a Brady violation, then they're also alleging that the state knew about this and did not disclose it, and it did not disclose it to them, that they had to find it themselves. So that's what's going on here. All right. So now we're going to skip forward because they give her a break. They get on the phone. She gets on the phone. She calls her attorney and they call 3 more witnesses and then go to lunch. Let's see if she testifies on what's happening with that. All right, let's see. They're back from lunch, so let's see.
Information in the event that because we have disproved that each and every time, and you're saying it in front of the jury. So in the event that they would like to have a hearing.
Hold on. Let's see what they're upset about.
Your Honor, I ask, if the court feels an admonishment is appropriate, then so. But I ask, Your Honor, that moving forward with trial, if the defense could refrain from saying statements such as the state is making misrepresentations, or that they haven't received information in the event that because we have disproved that each and every time, and you're saying it in front of the jury. So in the event that they would like to have a hearing on whether or not they have received certain evidence, you can certainly take a break to do so. I welcome that. But to continue to say these things on the record in front of the jury, we feel is not appropriate decorum. We feel it's not professional. And as they know, if they are to make any type of Brady violation or any type of assertion that the state has not complied up to their duty, then that has to be in good faith. Not something that they can mention every time that they feel they haven't had something, when in reality, maybe they just haven't reviewed it.
Thank you. And that's a good point made by the state. Of course, the defense can certainly articulate the fact that they have not received certain evidence from the state. However, be civil about it. Do not levy accusations, especially ones that you would not make if you look through your documentation properly. Okay?
All right, so they must have said, this must have said, hold on a minute now. Let me say what we need to find.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Now I have to know how, because this seems like they got some resolution. So let's see.
The state is present and we are outside the presence of the jury. Yes, the state has an issue to raise on the record.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I want to offer State Exhibit 249, which is titled State Submitted Witnesses, and State Exhibit 250, which is titled State Submitted Notice of Experts for record purposes only.
Okay, State's Exhibits 249 and 250 are admitted for record purposes.
And I have one more matter to take up, ma'am.
Yes.
Your Honor, I ask, if the court feels an admonishment is appropriate, then so. But I ask, Your Honor, that moving forward with the trial, if the defense could refrain from saying statements such as the state is making misrepresentations.
All right, we already heard that.
Allegation against this defense team, I felt that I own that this was wrong. Everything else, I believe.
Hold on.
Got it.
From the state. However, be civil about it. Do not levy accusations, especially ones that you will not make if you look through your documentation properly. Okay?
Yes, sir. May I provide just 3% that specifically, it is my understanding and my belief that the one time that we truly got it wrong was about the indictment with the Hill County individual. And I, in front of this jury, in this court, acknowledged that I was wrong on that. I accepted error on that, and we proceeded forward. And that was in front of the full purview of the jury in this court. Everything else, I believe that their statements to this court will speak for themselves. And specifically, if we go back just moments ago before lunch, she told this court what testimony did or did not exist. And when the court reporter read it back, it spoke specifically to my concern that she levied after. I think it's somewhat hypocritical and ironic that they're making sidebar comments attacking us, but then they want to make a formal objection as to our defense and the zealous advocacy and defense of this client. Again, I know I was wrong in the Hill County. I own that error. And so I will certainly abide by the order of the court, but that was a direct allegation against this defense team. I felt that a response was warranted, and we're doing what we believe. We are not making disingenuous comments, but we will act with civility and with, of course, always respect the court. But I just want to bring that to the court's attention based on that statement.
Thank you. That goes for both sides. You have to remain civil to each other out of respect for this court, for the jury, and everybody else, the members of the public who are here watching this.
Yeah. Behave.
And then I'm just going back to I think there was a confusion or maybe not, but FBI agent Daniel Jimenez is listed as an expert. I do not believe defense has objected to him being as an expert and has not asked for a hearing. So I just like that to be on
The
record.
defense has a point here. The state did not want, when the state put this witness on, the state did not say that they were putting him on as an expert, which would have afforded the defense an opportunity to voir dire him outside the presence of the jury.
Your Honor, he's been designated as an expert. I don't believe the state rules require the proffer. I believe that's a federal rules. I may be mistaken on that, but he was always designated as an expert, so they knew in advance that we were offering him as an expert.
Well, he was, the defense was given notice that you would use him as an expert. However, this court has not designated him as an expert. All right, anything else?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's bring the jury in.
All right, let's see who they finna call. See how messy this has been? Shenanigans in the courtroom, y'all. I'm trying to tell you. If they don't bring her in, I'm going to, if she's not testifying after lunch, I'm going to end it because I have to get stuff ready for the live tonight. But we should be all the way caught up for Monday's trial testimony. And I believe they start trial at 9 a.m. Central Time. So that'll be 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Florida time for me. So I'll go live a little earlier than that, like, 15, 20 minutes or so. Give everybody a chance to get in, get comfy, refill their coffee, whatever, and then we'll get to it. So I'll go live at like 9:45 Eastern. And to the judge's point, usually what happens is
Surveillance investigation, searching for wanted fugitives, violent offenders, and
hold on, let me pause this. All right. So usually what happens is, oh, you're so welcome, Amelia. Oh, I can't. Oh, have me on while you're working, Summer Lilacs. Okay. So usually what happens with voir dire is this. So the prosecution and the defense both have a witness list, right? And they can designate on that witness, and they share it with each other, right? So they can designate on the witness list who they intend to call and proffer as expert witnesses, which would then be expert testimony. Okay. So then what happens is a voir dire is conducted in the out of the presence of the jury, but in front of the judge. And It's one thing to have a witness designated on a witness list as an expert witness. It is a different thing for them to proffer that and offer that person prior to their testimony as an expert witness, because that's when the other opposing counsel gets to put them on the stand and have voir dire outside of the presence of the jury. And based on the voir dire, they can the opposing counsel can either say, "Oh, okay, well, we'll accept this person as an expert witness or not." A good example of that would have been in the West Memphis 3 trial. That's just, I've been deep diving in that one, so it's on the top of my head. So when Dale Griffiths was proffered as an expert witness in the occult and Satanism, there was a voir dire that's shown in Paradise Lost. That is when Jason Baldwin's attorney, Mr. Ford, gets up and he asks about the mail order catalog, what classes he took, et cetera, et cetera. And that's when Judge Burnett then rules and says, basically, I'm not sure you have to have a degree in anything to be considered a witness in the state of Arkansas, as long as you can show like on the job training, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that is how this goes. What the state did with this FBI witness, is they designated Mr. Jimenez is his name. What they did was on their witness list, they designated him as an expert witness. That's not the same as proffering before the court, because an expert witness is allowed a leeway in their testimony that regular witnesses are not. They are allowed not total, they can't run loose with it, but the rules of hearsay are just a tiny bit different when it comes to an expert witness. And that was the problem, is that they were, according to the defense, they were trying to get in hearsay testimony with respect to a separate investigation that was being conducted on Islam Syed, which is Yaser Syed's son, for essentially the aiding and abetting. And apparently at some point after the tip from the apartment complex, and Yaser ended up not being caught at that point, not there. After that occurred, Islam went to Canada, and Officer Jimenez, while he has knowledge of that investigation, was not the agent who was directly conducting the investigation, and therefore anything that he learned would be considered hearsay under the rules of evidence that they've already established, right? But if he was proffered and accepted as an expert witness, he could have testified to that. That was the problem. All right, so let's see who else they call. Oh wait, no. I do want you guys to watch this, because I want you guys to see, because we missed that, what with the cross-examination of FBI agent Jimenez.
Yes, you are.
All right. So I'm going to mute. I'll be right back. I'll be in chat, but y'all behave.
All right, let the record reflect that we are still outside the presence of the jury. Statement, proceed.
Agent Daniel, Jimenez, you're the same agent Daniel Jimenez who testified in the Norwegian insurance today.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so not earlier, I inquired about where you were currently working. You were told us that you worked for the FBI. Can you tell the judge a little bit about what your training background is consistent to become a federal agent?
Yes, ma'am. I have a 4-year bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I have been employed with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office for approximately. I've been employed with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office from the years, almost 5 years prior to that. After that, this is before the Bureau, before the FBI. I was an intelligence specialist for the Department of Defense on a special Pentagon program. I was a military civilian interrogator and intelligence collector prior to the FBI. And while in the FBI, I held a title at the Dallas field office as the fugitive coordinator, which all fugitive matters and our area in our territory, that is all North Texas, would be coordinated through myself and our squad, but I was coordinator. I don't know how much do you want me to go into?
Let's go specifically to your role at the
Okay.
FBI. You talked about how you were a fugitive coordinator. Is that what I understood?
That's correct.
And can you tell the judge a little bit about what that role required?
Required knowledge in fugitive matters, whether domestic or international. I've had various experiences in locating and apprehending fugitives in international level in the various countries, and personally coordinating and initiating the efforts of extradition and deportation. Also coordinated several arrests and location efforts to apprehend and locate fugitives domestically, whether in the United States, in different states, or within the North Texas area, our area of operation at the FBI Dallas office.
Now, as that fugitive coordinator, how long did you have that role? And was that in conjunction with your role as the lead case agent in this case?
That was in conjunction with the role as a lead case agent.
And so how long have you been in that position?
Approximately from 2016 till 2022.
2016
Approximately.
to 2022.
Yes.
And in that role, does your responsibilities or part of the tactics used to locate and apprehend fugitives include surveillance tactics?
Yes.
And if you can't just kind of globally explain what those surveillance might have.
There's different types of surveillance. There's physical surveillance, electronic surveillance. Within physical surveillance, you have surveillance dealing with aerial surveillance in capacities from air assets. You have electronic surveillance dealing with cameras and audio. I've several instances of applying for legal orders to obtain such authority in a federal level, and employed those techniques on numerous accounts to locate and apprehend fugitives of other cases, and also locate and apprehend fugitives in my own cases, because as a fugitive coordinator, that was an ancillary duty. I was also a case agent and mainly worked organized crime and the dealing with violent crime and criminal enterprises that operate transnationally and internationally.
Regarding what you just testified as far as surveillance techniques and other methods that you would employ to locate fugitives, did you use that background in education to apply in this situation?
Yes, I did.
And did you in your team employ electronic surveillance and physical surveillance and air surveillance, as well as face-to-face surveillance for running Yaser Saeed, Islam Saeed, Yasin Saeed, and the rest of the Saeed family?
Yes.
And did that aid and assist in the ultimate capture of the defendant on August 26, 2020?
Yes.
What kind of training did you have to have in order to be able to acquire this ability to do this type of surveillance and investigation?
A lot of these techniques are employed through experience. There's several different trainings that are included. I've attended the Cellular Analysis Survey Team basic training, which deals with the detection and operations of how cell phones work and related to how they operate with cell phone towers. Attended training, basic and advanced in physical surveillance, and surveillance of following and keeping a close eye on individuals without being detected.
And do you employ that training in your volunteer duties?
Yes.
And in addition to your role as, you called it an ancillary duty as far as being a fugitive coordinator, you were also the lead case agent in this case.
That's correct.
You established that. And did you use those duties that you have as a fugitive coordinator? Did you apply that in this case in the work that you did in locating and capturing?
Yes.
Do you keep up with your trainings as well and up to date with any additional or progressive movements in terms of technology or electronics?
Yes.
Yep. In order to be able to continue to maintain this role?
Yes.
I'll pass it to
Yes.
Briefly, Your Honor, if I may, what, again, specific area, you said surveillance,
investigation and subsequent apprehension.
investigation, what?
Apprehension of fugitives.
Okay, may I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
You received basic surveillance training,
That's correct.
and you received basic physical surveillance training.
That's correct.
That is in addition to what every other FBI agent has ever received in your line of work.
That's correct.
Your Honor, that concludes the cross-examination, but I do have an objection based on direct cross-examination.
The state would submit agent is an expert in those particular areas.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes, go ahead.
having a job in law enforcement does not define you as an expert automatically. Having a job with the FBI does not designate you as an expert automatically. Having a job does not make you an expert in any field that you work in for that period of time. It requires specialized training that has to be elicited during the proper of this witness. They went in over generalities of education, generalities over experience. The only specific training that they highlighted was basic training on surveillance and basic training on physical surveillance. So he has achieved the basic training level by his testimony in surveillance. We do not believe that they have established anything under the rules of evidence that would allow this witness to be proffered as an expert in surveillance, investigation, or apprehension, especially given the fact that, well, I'll stick with that. I'm not going to get into the next comment, but we don't believe that their attempt to proffer this witness has elicited the necessary requirements to allow them to be admitted as an expert in this court.
Thank you. All right, based on this witness's experience, education, the court will designate him as an expert in these fields. Let's bring the jurors in.
Thank you.
You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to reach out to a criminal attorney and ask them for their thoughts on this trial and the way that it's going, because he already had started his direct testimony before lunch, right? And then there's this argument about whether he's an expert or not. So they stop everything. They voir dire him. The defense objects to him being designated as an expert witness. The court decides, no, he will be designated as an expert witness. And I've never seen it happen quite like this before, and I'm sort of curious what an attorney would say about all of this.
And the jurors are present and seated. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Agent Jimenez is on the stand and was.
You think he would talk to me bowling with cotton balls? I like
yes.
Scott Reich, but I'm.
Jimenez, you're the same Daniel Jimenez that was testifying here before we broke for lunch.
Hang on
Yes,
just a
ma'am.
second. I just want to say this real quick because I'm very curious about this. And mainly what I'm curious about is moving forward. Because, okay, the trial's underway and the jury's going to find however the jury finds, right? And let's say they find him guilty. Okay. So, he would appeal because he's maintained his innocence. That's just, that's pretty much a given, right? I feel like he would just appeal it. So I'm curious if what's happened thus far is if this is going to go to trial errors, because usually that's a lot of what the initial appeals process is based on is errors in trial. So I'm very curious about this. Okay. I'm going to reach out to Scott Reich then, see if he'll comment.
Right, sir. So when we were for lunch, we talked about how on August 14th, 2017, we had the Bedford incident at the Copper Canyon apartments. Between August 14th, 2017 and the beginning of August of 2020, so that 3-year period, did you and your team actively pursue leads to locate and identify where the defendant Yaser site was?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that there were a lot of leads that were found?
Yes.
Now, I don't know that I 100% clear this. Are you doing all of this investigation by yourself?
No, I'm leading it and doing some of it by myself and also delegating other investigative techniques to my team.
Earlier, you talked about being on a task force, and I want to kind of explain what that means. Does a task force consist of multiple agents?
Yes.
Are y'all all working in conjunction with each other or assisting each other?
Yes.
And is that pretty common within your agency in that particular unit?
Yes.
And do you know an agent by the name of Randy White?
Yes.
Who is Randy White?
Randy White is a special agent on the Dallas Violent Crimes Task Force, and I enlisted his help and assistance with this investigation as the investigation developed promising leads.
Okay, so let's talk about what surveillance and investigation look like in between what happened at Copper Canyon in August of 2017 and the beginning of August of 2020. Are you looking
Okay,
at
bowling for
the
with
Saeed
cotton balls.
family, the brothers and the sister?
Yes,
Are you looking at the Saeed brothers' children?
yes,
And in terms of Yasin Saeed, are you aware of whether or not he had any children?
yes.
How many children did he have?
He had 2 daughters.
And what are their names?
That's Dalal Saeed and Amira Saeed.
Now, were Dalal and Amira Saeed approximately the same age as Amina and Sarah?
Yes,
And with regards to, so by August of 2020, would they have been adults?
yes,
And so in the 3 years up to August of 2020, are you looking at financial records?
yes, I am.
Are you doing electronic surveillance?
Yes.
Can you tell us what electronic surveillance means?
Electronic surveillance can include the use of cameras affixed in areas that are undetected and face a public space, such as an area that would be accessed or visible to someone standing in a public space, like a front door of a residence or an area frequented by someone of interest. There are many different types of electronic surveillance, but namely that technique was used. in this
Are
investigation.
you, so that would be like a pole camera?
Yes, correct.
And so that would be a camera that's on a fixed structure that basically is recording 24/7.
Correct.
Is that fair to say?
Yes,
Did you employ pole cameras in your investigation?
yes,
Did you or any of your agents follow members of the Saeed family?
yes.
And were those attempts to kind of locate or see where they were going, were they successful?
In which time frame?
So let's talk about between August of 2017 and the beginning of August of 2000.
Right. So no, they were not successful.
And have you heard the term surveillance conscious?
Yes,
Can you tell us what that is?
that is surveillance conscience is a train of thought that someone would assume if they believe they're being watched or followed. This is something that we identified, myself included, members of the Saeed family were very surveillance conscious and would at times make us aware of our different surveillance techniques.
Would the Saeed family, they came into contact with the federal agent, confront the federal agents?
Yes,
Would they point out that they observed cameras?
yes,
And did it appear that the Saeed family was resistant in assisting the FBI or even the Irving Police Department in locating Yaser Saeed?
yes.
You may.
Oh my goodness. We're never going to get through this trial if y'all are approaching every 2 seconds. Mainly what I'm curious about is, let's skip ahead just a scotch, because really what I want is the cross-examination of this witness. And the reason for that is because
Within the justice.
Yes.
Recruit
So they're special agents.
as arrest, and they have not specifically identified anything in here that is going to be tied directly to Yaser. At this point, we know that we have Islam and Yasin in and out of that house. The house is leased by the law and the other daughter. So there's going to be substantial possession issues if they get into this and the search and everything else. So if they want to specifically identify something they're going to try and designate to be relevant to this case, we can address that issue. But at this point, Your Honor, I would object to the entirety of this submission of evidence as being irrelevant and needless accumulative based on the testimony we've already heard.
Thank you. What's the state's response?
Well, first of all those evidence of consciousness of guilt. The defendant did abscond for 12.5 years. Was counseled by his family members, and especially considering the fact that they made the defendant's family concerned about this to hide them. It's relevant in terms of the jurors are entitled to know what the defendant did to conceal his presence from apprehension. It also goes to as part of the ultimate apprehension of the defendant, and so we do believe it's relevant. It's absolutely necessary in front of this jury. They're entitled to know what the defendant did to conceal his presence for the last 12.5 years, especially since he attempted to avoid prosecution throughout. And it does go with elements of RSI.
Thank you. Anything else?
Over here.
All right, thank you. State's exhibits 251, 252, 253, 149, 204 through 238, 150 through 213, 242, and 243 are all admitted for all purposes.
Permission to publish.
You may.
Judge, and we're going to actually reserve our right to publish some of these exhibits, but I do want to talk about some of these items relatively briefly. So, Okay. So, Agent Jimenez, let's talk about State's Exhibit number 243.
All right, I'm going to skip through this just because
Is this
he absconded. He absconded for
police
12
department.
years.
The
They,
local law enforcement will help you with the designation
Absolutely.
of any information that you put on the top 10 list.
Yes, it will help us with
all right,
information.
this woman's
For
getting
David's
close.
information.
Please, for everybody, who would make that decision?
Yeah. And if you nominate the vast majority of lead viability,
Ah,
then we do.
See cabs, if someone calls,
Yes.
and that's misrepresented. The searches,
I don't know the exact number. Yes. 500 when he was arrested.
by the time that you report,
But promotions, I don't know the time.
okay, so is it your test?
oh my goodness.
You mentioned that you
Right now, I'm in the public corruption unit, which is totally separate than.
we can address that issue. But Your Honor, I would object to the entirety of this submission. That
Oh
is
my gosh.
Relevant and needless accumulative based on the test.
especially consider, and
Yes.
I just want to hear the cross-examination for Pete's sake. Sorry, you guys. All right, here we go.
Special Agent, you have been designated as
Thank
an
you for your
expert in investigation,
patience.
correct?
By this court, sir.
And surveillance
Yes, sir.
and apprehension.
Thank you for your patience, you guys, because that was 11 billion scrolls later.
Yes, sir.
You discussed that in your observations of Yaser that your agency executed used various cameras.
Yes, sir.
You used manpower.
So I think the deal with the masks is that they want to be COVID conscious. However, they want the jury to be able to see the witness's face. And no two people have worn these masks the same.
Follow or different suspects around.
Yes, sir.
You would pick up trash and go through it.
As discussed.
You would spot check. So if you weren't following him, you send manpower or an agent to the house to see what's going on.
Yes, sir.
Various video recordings.
Yes.
You discussed air assets. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? What all is included under the category of air assets?
It is an airplane, sir.
So y'all are actually, is it a manned airplane or unmanned?
Yes.
So you have a pilot, is it a recruit?
So they're special agents. They're pilots.
Okay, so multiple people operating airplanes to surveil the area.
Yes, sir.
Ground assets, could you elaborate on that?
Agents and task force officers operating vehicles, often anywhere between 3 and 8, depending.
You mentioned that you work with local law enforcement like SWAT on the execution of the warrant at other various points.
Yes, the SWAT team was the FBI Dallas SWAT team that
It
executed
was
that.
FBI, not necessarily local law enforcement.
Correct.
But you did work with local law enforcement and their resources as well,
Yes, sir.
I do too, Summer. I wonder when they're going to be called.
Respectively.
Are you familiar with Stingray technology?
Let me hit up the Googles.
Yes, sir. In
Hopefully
short.
they haven't already been
Expert in
called. If
surveillance?
they have, we'll go
Are you
back and listen.
Familiar with Stingray technology?
Yes, sir.
Could you explain what that is?
It's a matter to identify a cell phone.
Is it fake cell phone towers with acquired cell phone data?
Possibly.
An expert in surveillance, you don't know what this technology is?
Yes, sir. I'm familiar with it.
Are you permitted by the federal government to discuss it in open court?
This is often referenced in search warrant affidavits that are often published on record.
Was it used in this surveillance case?
I don't believe so, sir.
Not in Texas or any other state?
No, sir. I did not employ those.
And all these times and all these resources, all these surveillance techniques are how you ultimately found Yaser in August of 2020, correct?
Yes, sir.
Eventually, you were promoted to a supervisor. Was that based in part on your investigation of Yaser and the discovery and capture of Yaser?
Well, I wouldn't call it based in part, sir. Right now, I'm in the public corruption unit, which is totally separate than the violent crimes.
But you were promoted to a supervisor position.
Yes, sir.
Agent Permenter was promoted to a supervisor position.
Yes, sir.
Agent Berna was.
So
promoted
am
to a
I,
supervisor.
Summer. That's what
Yes.
I'm going to do.
Did Randy White receive any promotions since August of 2020?
I'm not aware of any promotions or anything.
You mentioned that Gibbs retired.
Correct.
When did Gibbs retire?
Sometime possibly in 2015, possibly. I don't remember exactly the year, 15 or 16.
Well, I thought that you took over for Gibbs. I'm not being confrontational here. I thought you took over for Gibbs in August 2018.
No, sir. Mario Berna, who was a supervisory special agent that you referenced,
Okay.
he became the lead case agent at that time.
And so in the executed search warrant on the apartment, Berna was the lead agent.
Yes, sir.
And based on, I'm assuming what happened to that apartment, you were then promoted. And I guess what happened to Berna after the apartment?
I'm not sure what you're asking, sir. No,
Well, so you searched an apartment believing that Yaser was there.
I did not search that apartment.
Your agency searched the apartment believing that Yaser.
I
Yes,
think he's already
Blew out
testified,
the
guys.
window,
Hold on.
forced entry into the home.
yes.
Did you have air assets?
I wasn't there at the moment, so I don't know what kind of assets were used.
When you took over as the lead agent on this case, were you familiar with what had happened in this case leading up to your leadership?
Yes.
role? Okay, so is it your testimony that you don't know what happened that day?
No, it's my testimony that I'm familiar with the pertinent facts that were collected on that day. But as we work with our, local partners and they have other assets that they may employ, I don't want to testify in this court something that could be inaccurate. So I'm not familiar with the assets that were used by our local partners
All right, hold on.
in terms of FBI
I'm
assets.
gonna find
I'm
it,
not
you
aware of any
guys.
aerial assets that were used on that day.
But you'll go into the apartment and according to law enforcement, Yaser gets away. And then there's a shift in leadership with the FBI case regarding Yaser the next month.
I'm not sure exactly the timeline of shift in leadership, but I did take over the case because of the of promotions of the lead case agent. Yes.
You did your testimony that Bernie got promoted after that?
But promotions, I don't know the timeline, if it was after, before. I want to say it was after he was promoted. I don't remember, or if the promotion was already in place and he was just scheduled to be in place in that promotion afterwards. I don't recall that timeline. That is something that Verna would have more familiarity.
But you are familiar with the case history of Yaser Saeed in regards to the FBI and the investigation all over this country.
Yes, sir.
Okay, first I want to, so the jury understand, what is an FBI 302?
It is a testimonial report on FBI investigation.
Would
Case
it compare to sort of like a police report?
Yes, that's fair.
But it's more limited in scope. It's usually one interview, and then there's a 302 to document that interview, and then if there was a subsequent interview, there'd be a separate 302. You don't throw them all together.
Generally, yes, sir.
Okay, he testified on day 2, so we're gonna go through that.
By the time
Two.
you arrested Yaser.
We're way behind, y'all. We missed a ton.
So I'm going to guess or estimate by the time that I took over the case. Is that your question? Took over or when he was arrested?
No, at the day that you captured Yaser,
Okay.
in August of 2020, how many FBI 302s were in your case file as the lead agent on this for Yaser?
Possibly anywhere between 400 and maybe 500, possibly.
And every one of those FBI 302s represents a different moment in time that the FBI interacted with particular witnesses or suspects or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So hundreds of FBI 302s
Yes.
over 12 years.
Yes.
How many different states do you think the FBI went to looking for Yaser?
I don't know the exact number of various states.
How does it? Are you familiar with the searches and investigation of witnesses in Georgia at various cities?
I don't recall a specific moment in Georgia.
But if it was in your case file, that would be documented.
If you're looking at it, I'm going to take your word for it.
I'm not going to misrepresent you. So.
Okay.
So there's Georgia,
Okay.
North Carolina,
Yes, sir.
Virginia,
Yes, sir.
Pennsylvania,
Multiple states.
New York State,
Yes, sir.
Wisconsin,
Yes, sir.
Oregon.
It was.
Yes.
It
Yes,
was
sir.
Amina's
California.
boyfriend.
Possibly, yes.
And that's just from 08 to 11. Are there any states that you can recall top of your head as lead agent that I'm forgetting here? Any other critical states that y'all went to looking for Yaser?
No, sir. No states come up to mind. Other than
It
the
could
ones
be
mentioned.
anything. It could be a guy who works for Diamond Taxi Cabs. If someone calls in that they think it looks like Yaser, y'all send an agent and check it out.
Well, doesn't work that way exactly. But when a lead comes in from the public who calls and says, hey, call the number, I think it's 1-800 FBI tips or something like that. It comes to our field office, it comes to our squad, it gets investigated in the least intrusive measure. And if it's a lead that could be promising, then we do more intrusive techniques. But if it's someone, obviously that appears to be him or bears a resemblance. For example, if someone says, I know a guy that works at this particular location, and I think it's defendant Yaser site, we would look into that. And if there's someone that bears a resemblance, we may or may not send a body to actually look if someone's there, depending on lead viability and the availability of resources.
And these hundreds of 302s, maybe not 100% of them, but the vast majority of these interactions with various people, various leads, and actions taken during the course of the FBI's investigation, correct?
No, the vast majority of yeah, I guess in part, yes, your question in part.
I'm,
You know,
yeah, let's hear what they have to
Curious,
say,
because
Summer,
potentially
because
you're
I'm curious about that
thousands of
myself,
calls
babe.
That you narrow down to hundreds of interviews.
I'm
Is
so
that fair?
sorry we've
Yes.
missed so much, you guys.
That's
I should have been
an
on this from day one.
Intense
I'm so
amount
sorry.
of resources and time that the FBI dedicated to this.
Yes.
You testified that the process for getting on the top 10 list is stringent, I believe was the word you used.
Yes, sir.
What does that process look like? What steps are taken before the FBI makes that decision?
So field office will nominate a fugitive who believe that the media attention would garner tips from the public. And the fugitive would have to be someone that's either has a lengthy criminal history or committed a heinous act or something of note. And it would have to be a situation where publicizing the fugitive in the media would benefit the investigation from the information from the public.
And
So
who would designate the description of an individual that's put on the FBI top 10 list? Like,
Oh, thank
one
you,
that
Summer. Thank you so
describe
much.
The nature of the offense a little
You guys
bit
are
more specifically.
Very
Who would
patient
make
with
that?
me and my shenanigans, and I
well, I
appreciate
believe
it.
that information is contained within, arrest warrant affidavits, information from the local police department.
The local law enforcement will help you with the designation of any information that you put on the top 10 list.
Yes, it will help us with information.
Does the FBI go back to make sure that this is a sound case and a sound investigation before they put all of this resources into it?
Yes,
So you would go back and review the police file?
there is a process in place to ensure that there is a state felony, and there is a federal felony arrest warrant in place. And in this case, the defendant was indicted by a grand jury before he was placed on a 10 most wanted list.
Are you aware whether the FBI investigated the details of this investigation before proceeding with this top 10 list decision?
It's a broad question. Can you refine that, please?
Did you trust local law enforcement in this, or did you do an independent investigation before making this?
In the instant charge of capital murder?
Yes, the one we're talking about right now.
Right. That's up to the local law enforcement to investigate.
Okay.
We don't FBI.
You will make sure that investigation is as complete and sound and thorough as possible before you dump hundreds of man hours and countless aerial ground assets and all of this surveillance and technology and all of this time. You want to know that you're dealing with a case that has been properly investigated. Is that fair?
Yes, and in this case, a grand jury had also opined that there was probable cause that this defendant committed this act.
So, as the lead agent who took over this case and handled all of this, who inherited the workload, who executed the rest of the assignment, who did all of this, right? I mean, you're here to testify about your role in all this.
Yes, sir.
If the FBI were to find out that a potential suspect, I'm going to do a hypothetical here real quick. Hypothetically, if the potential suspect's alibi witness changed, would that raise issue with the FBI?
I'm not going to opine on hypotheticals in this court,
All
sir.
right, well, then let's ask about this case specifically. If one of the suspects told local law enforcement, and they documented it in their report, which you relied upon in the course of your investigation as an expert in surveillance, and an expert in investigation, and an expert in apprehension, would it have changed the course of your investigation, or would you have raised any flags if a potential suspect?
I don't think my
I'm
court heard you.
going to object to speculation at this time.
Your Honor, they proffered him as a witness expert in investigation. I believe that he is fully qualified to answer this question. He said he reviewed all the case file information, that he relied on it in order to make this decision about the top 10, and he was aware of everything.
Oh,
in
I'm
the case
sorry,
file,
Sam. I
leading up
hope
to
you
the
get your
apprehension
sleep
of our client.
pattern back
Overruled.
correct. Finish your question.
Can you ask the question?
If you were to learn that a potential suspect had lied about an alibi witness. And let me make this a little bit more clear. If one of the potential suspects who told law enforcement that they were the last people to see these two girls alive, that they were put eyes on them the night that they lost their lives, that they had traveled the country with these two girls days before these girls lost their lives, that one of them told one of the girls that it was the last time that they were ever going to see her. And he lied about his alibi witness to law enforcement. Would that concern you as the FBI before you put all this into this case?
I would convey that information to the local law enforcement investigating this case, sir.
Great. How would you feel 14 years later, right before this trial kicks off, that alibi story in its entirety changed based on who was there to testify about what happened that night with those two suspects?
Well,
Object to invading the office of the jury at this time and speculation at this time.
Yeah, how can he know?
What his investigation was.
Overruled.
Oh, shoot, she's going to
yeah,
allow
can you ask
it.
that question again, sir?
If two potential suspects, who were the last two to tell law enforcement that they did, were the last two to see these girls alive, within possibly 30 minutes of their time of death, go to law enforcement and tell them a story that they are each other's alibi witnesses. And then you find out that that is a lie. That is a lie. How would that impact your investigation?
Well, sir, personally, I would look at the totality of circumstances in this case, and being that the victim of this case named her shooter as her father in a 911 call, I would weigh that information.
So it's your testimony that the
I'm
FBI,
going to object to not allowing this witness to finish his answer, Your Honor.
Sustained.
And I would ask that he be allowed to complete his thought in his sentences.
So I'm not in the business of intruding in the instant offense of the local law enforcement. I would convey information if I receive information I believe to be contradicting to the investigation. However, the investigation for the FBI was to locate and apprehend a fugitive who possibly crossed state lines.
so you're just doing your job.
In locating a fugitive who was indicted for capital murder, yes.
And the quality of the quality of the allegations and the quality of the law
Oh, my
enforcement
gosh.
investigation,
Wow.
you're going to let it be what it is, and you're going to move forward with your job, surveilling and apprehending a fugitive.
No, those are your words, sir. I believe my testimony is contradicting to what you said. I said I would convey the information to local law enforcement. It is not my position to insert myself in the homicide investigation. I would.
With all due respect, sir, is it your testimony that the FBI
Again, he didn't get to
is
finish.
fine and is not concerned and is not going to opine on a situation where you have two girls who've lost their lives and witnesses have lied to law enforcement, and those law
I'm
enforcement
going to
agencies
object
and
to
the FBI.
argumentative and ask to be answered at this point.
Finish your question first.
Is it your testimony
Oh, my
that
gosh.
the FBI is not going to opine or investigate, despite being an expert investigation, the fact that a lie was a critical part of eliminating two suspects, proceeding forward with this case, handing it off to the FBI, and dumping an immeasurable amount of resources and effort without ever fact-checking the original allegations? That's how the FBI handled this top 10 list. Is that your testimony?
I'm going to object to compound question. I'm going to object to argumentative. And I'm going to object to ask to be answered at this time.
Sustained.
No, you don't have to answer that.
Yeah, proceed, Your Honor.
You may.
Please proceed. Hurry up. 'Cause I don't like this route that you're going down, sir, but I get why you're
I'd like
doing
to talk
it.
about the federal code for murder. You cited it specifically on direct examination. What's that code again?
I believe that's
Statute?
Title 18 U.S. Code 1111.
You're aware that within that, a person can be charged for murder in federal court if it is perpetuated as a part of pattern or practice of assault against a child or children, correct?
I think you're leaving a lot of that statute out, sir.
Not all of it is applicable to this case, but that is one of the elements that is permissible for the federal government to charge an individual with murder. Is that correct?
No,
The code that you just cited, that I just read off, that is public information, that is written in federal law, you're saying that that's not what this says?
well, sir, I believe the most important part of that code is the jurisdiction issue, where it has to happen.
Let's all Google
whether-
this code.
I'm going
Do
to
you
object to
disagree?
the
Allow the witness to finish answering the question.
Yes, Your Honor.
There's a jurisdiction issue. I want to clarify the court. I'm not an attorney, but I'm familiar with that statute. There's a jurisdiction issue with federal murder statutes charged in areas where it didn't occur in special maritime locations, American Indian reservations, military installations. That's the key. Those are the key elements of that statute, and where the federal government would then allocate its resources and has direct venue to charge the federal murder charge statute. For example, if it were to happen on a Native American reservation, and the FBI would have primacy on that, along with the Native American Police Department that's has jurisdiction in that area. But in this case, sir, with the defendant, it was more appropriately investigated and charged at the state level, county.
Okay, so do you recognize that the statute says what I read back to you?
I don't know what you were holding in your hand, sir.
You cited 18 U.S. Code Section 1111, which is federal charge for murder.
Correct.
And in that code, it discusses what I read back to you, correct?
I would have to see the code. I would have to see it,
So
and not
you've
just
got parts of it memorized, if not all of it.
in general. We don't in our squad or in the task force where I worked. We don't investigate murder charges because we don't have direct venue to murder charges that are applicable to the federal government.
And based on your understanding that you so clearly articulated here, as the opposing counsel said, the facts in this case do not support a charge for murder in federal court.
Not to my knowledge, sir.
No further questions.
Very quickly, Your Honor.
Yes.
So one thing I didn't clear up, Agent Jimenez, is Islam and Yasin Saeed, were they ever arrested or charged by the federal government in unlawful, or essentially hiding or concealing, harboring the defendant from abolition?
Yes.
Were they convicted of that? Each respectively convicted of those offenses?
Yes, one by guilty plea and the other by jury trial.
I don't think I'm this time around.
Anything else on the defense? May this witness be released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense? May this witness be released?
I'm
Thank you.
looking up
Good
the
evening.
statute, and you guys, that doesn't make sense to me, especially when he's talking about jurisdiction. So I'm not even going to try to explain it, but I will. I'm making a note of it, and I'm totally going to ask an attorney. Whether that be, I'll reach out to Scott Reich. I'll reach out to any attorneys that I can to see if they will comment on this, because I kind of don't understand the point, and I don't want to comment on a point I don't understand. So now what's happening? Not the... Oh, they do get her.
All right, call your next witness.
State House Officer Amy Giuseppe.
All right, hold on. I want to say something. All right, her testimony isn't incredibly long. So we'll watch her, and then we
Good afternoon,
will
doctor. Did I have you sworn?
go get
earlier?
the boyfriend's
Thank you.
testimony. And then we should be good and caught up.
Statement proceed. Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Doctor, can you
All right,
please,
give me just 1 second. I'll be right back, but I'll be in chat.
Yes, Dr. Amy, AMY, Gruzecki, GRUZECKI.
Dr. Brzezicki, where are you currently employed?
I work for American Forensics
All right.
in Mesquite
How long have you worked for American Forensics?
since 2009.
All right, and what do you do for American Forensics?
I'm a forensic pathologist.
And what is your education to get your pathology, to become a pathologist?
Well, first, I'm a medical doctor, so I have a bachelor's of science degree in biology. I also did a master's of science degree in forensic science. After I did my master's degree, I went to medical school for 4 years. After going to medical school, I did a residency in internal medicine for 1 year. After doing the residency in internal medicine, I went to pathology residency, where I studied anatomic pathology and clinical pathology. I did that for 4 years. After that, I did a year of fellowship in forensic pathology, which is what I practice now. I'm licensed to practice medicine in the state of Texas, and I'm board certified in anatomic pathology and forensic pathology.
Did you have employment with the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Science?
I did.
All right, and that's here in Dallas County.
It is.
All right, but it's not limited to Dallas County, is that correct?
That's correct.
It's
Yes,
not limited just to the DA's office, is that correct?
that's correct.
So other counties, defense attorneys, civil attorneys, anyone who wants any kind of testing done, forensic testing done, can use the Southwest Institute of Forensic Science. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but that's often but it's often one that's used for county cases.
Yes,
All right. Were you working for the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Science in 2008 when this autopsy was done in January 2008?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. However, in 2009, you left the Southwest Institute of Forensic Science.
That's correct, in
You did
November.
resign from the
Yes.
Southwest Institute of Forensic Science.
Yes,
But the resignation was due to what was believed to be a discrepancy, or what was believed to be you putting down sick time when you should have put down vacation time for doing a job in another county. Is that correct?
yes,
But you are allowed to do jobs for pay in other counties.
yes,
As a medical examiner, correct?
yes,
However, the policy is that you are to use vacation time.
yes,
It's not sick time.
yes,
Okay. That is the belief of the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Science.
yes,
However, that is not your belief, correct?
correct.
All right. Therefore, you were asked to resign.
That's correct.
After you resigned from the Southwest Institute of Forensic Science, you went to American Forensics. Is that
Yes, that's my company, and I opened up that American Forensics.
okay? And have you been in American Forensics since 2009?
Yes, ma'am.
At American Forensics, do you testify as an expert pathologist?
I do.
Okay. In fact, have you testified for criminal defense attorneys here in Dallas County?
Yes,
Okay, including people who have done death penalty cases here in Dallas County.
yes,
And that's since 2009.
yes,
You've also testified federally in federal defense cases?
Yes.
I'm sorry, with the defense counsel in federal cases against you, is that correct?
yes,
And this is as recent as 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022.
yes,
Have you also been asked to, and in fact, have upcoming engagements to testify as an expert in forensic pathology in other counties for the district attorney's office in other counties?
yes.
Including Cass County, Travis County. Is that correct?
Henderson County, yes, ma'am. Cass County, Navarro County, yes. Hopkins County, I have multiple subpoenas coming up, and I've testified most recently in all of those counties as well. Yes.
Okay. Can you briefly describe to this jury, and just generally, because it's getting late, but just generally briefly describe what you do when you conduct an autopsy?
Sure. So an autopsy is conducted generally in the same manner, no matter what type of autopsy it is. As the decedent is brought into the autopsy room, the body bag is opened. We take photographs as is to just look at, to document what the body looks like when the body comes in. So hence the as is photographs. We would document what the body looks like from head to toe, look at hair color, eye color, scars. We look for any evidence of injury. We would look for what the clothing is on the body, things like that. We'll document any evidence, collect any evidence that might be on the body at the same time. After all the evidence is collected and all the external examination is done, then we would then proceed to do the internal examination. The internal examination consists of a Y-shaped incision across the chest and the abdomen. And then all of the internal organs are looked at one by one. And every internal organ is looked at for both evidence of injury as well as for evidence of natural disease. So even if somebody was stabbed, we would also look to see if they had heart attack. We would also look to see if they had cancer. Then the back of the head would be sawed open, and the brain would be looked at again for also evidence of injury and evidence of natural disease. We would collect specimens for toxicology in order to look for drugs, both medications that are prescribed as well as medications that are illicit like cocaine or methamphetamine as well. We would collect urine and vitreous fluid as well. And all of these items that we collect at the time of autopsy would be sealed and sent to the laboratory. And then once all of that is collected, we would send to the laboratory, collect all that information, and prepare a final report once we get all of the information.
We have our signature on it. You may. Dr. Detective, I want to show you what's marked. Sorry. State's exhibit number 4. Right. And what I'm also going to offer, I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 69. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 69?
Yes. State's Exhibit 69 is a copy of the autopsy report that I prepared in this case.
Okay, and it has your signature on the autopsy?
It does.
Okay, and the signatures of the other medical examiners that review that particular autopsy.
That's also correct.
In fact, peer review is part of every autopsy that's done at Southwestern Institute of Forensic Science.
That's correct, especially when it's a homicide case. All of the medical examiners on staff at the time will review that autopsy and review the photographs and all of the findings and sign off on it with agreement if they agree with the findings.
All right, this report is something that you do at the time that you do the autopsy, is that correct?
Yes, so
Captain Care of State Control at Southwestern Institute of Forensic Science, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you were the author of this report?
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer the evidence State's Exhibit 69, the autopsy report.
No objection.
State's Exhibit 69 is admitted for all purposes.
Permission to publish in a minute?
Anyway,
Thank you. All right, I'd like to also offer in evidence State's Exhibit number 4, like I said previously, as well as State's Exhibit 70, 71, 72, and 73. Besides these Post-it stickers, do you recognize these photos?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what are these photos of?
So all of these photos are, the first 2 photos, State's Exhibit number, is it 4?
4.
4, and State's Exhibit 70 are photos that were taken, they're as is photos taken at the time of autopsy. They have the unique case identifying number, which is 08-0016, and this also corresponds to the case at the time of autopsy. State's Exhibit number 71 and State's Exhibit 72 and number 73 are photographs that were taken at the time of the scene, which I reviewed at the time of the autopsy, which are important for me to see as far as the autopsy is concerned.
In order to make your report, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer into evidence State's Exhibit number 4 for all purposes, as previously submitted for record purposes. State's Exhibit 70, 71, 72, and 73.
State's Exhibit number 4, previously admitted for record purposes, is now admitted for all purposes. State's Exhibits 70, 71, 72, and 73 are admitted for all purposes.
Now, Dr. Brusecki, referring to your autopsy report, after you've done what you explained to the jury, after you've done your putting the body on there, getting the photos of the as is, and then putting the body on the table and starting your report, and you look for the identifying marks and scars, you start with evidence of injury. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And what is the evidence of injury in your report to 080116 refers to Amina Saeed?
Yes. Ms. Amina Saeed had
Just
2
in
gunshot
case,
wounds.
hold on just a
2
second.
entrance gunshot wounds.
Just in case you're not looking at chat and you're watching the replay or you're watching live, I don't know what they're about to show. Normally, they don't show graphic autopsy photos, but in the past, 1 or 2 has slipped through, although it's been a couple of days, and I would assume, hopefully, that WFAA, should that have occurred, has edited them out. If they have not, this is your warning. It's always possible that it's accidentally shown or intentionally shown, and I don't have control over that. So if you don't want to see it, maybe just be cognizant of that. Okay. All right, here we go.
The first gunshot wound was a gunshot wound to the chest that I described. She had a 3/8 inch round gunshot wound to the chest, which was in the center of her chest. This projectile, the path of the wound, it went through the chest, and it went through her, the middle lobe of her right lung. It went through the lower lobe of her right lung, and it exited between her ribs on the right side, between rib 8 and 9. She had approximately 1,500 milliliters of blood in her right pleural cavity. The pleural cavity is the right chest cavity. 1,500 milliliters is not a number you're used to thinking about in America, because we usually deal with cups. But if you think about the water bottles that we all carry around, that's 500 milliliters. So she had approximately 3 of those water bottles filled, 3 filled water bottles of blood in her right chest cavity. So that's a lot of blood in the right chest cavity. So it's 3 of those, 1,500 milliliters in the right pleural cavity. Yes, ma'am, exactly like that. Yes, ma'am. So 3 of those filled in the right blood. And then she also had 50 milliliters of blood in her pericardial sac. The pericardial sac is just a fibrous covering that covers the heart, which is in about the center of her chest.
That's a lot.
That projectile then exited the right upper back. So on the right upper back. So the projectile went through the chest and exited the right upper back.
And so no projectiles recovered from that, obviously, because it exited the body.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And then the second gunshot wound, can you discuss that?
Yes. So the second gunshot wound was on her left lower chest. So it was on the left side of her chest, on the lower side. And this gunshot wound, the projectile passed through the skin and subcutaneous tissue of the chest, went through the ribs 9 and 10. It went through the mesentery of her stomach. It went through her stomach. It went through her pancreas. It went through the retroperitoneum. It went through the left diaphragm. And then it lodged in her vertebral column, which is the bone of her vertebral column. It did pass through her spinal cord, but it passed through the part of the spinal cord which is called the cauda equina, which is the part at the very end, the tail of the spinal cord. The cauda equina is the horsetail part of the spinal cord, which is basically an area of the spinal cord which is the very end of it, and it's basically made up of multiple long tail areas. So it passed through that part of the spinal cord itself, and it lodged in the bone. So I was able to recover at the time of autopsy the bullet from that shot.
All right, and have first witness, you may. And, doctor, either one of these, or certainly gunshot number one would be fatal.
Yes, ma'am.
Immediate care, even if they had immediate care.
Yes,
Is that correct?
it was fatal because of the bleeding out. She had lost a lot of blood.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as, and I believe entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 75. All right. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
Okay, and what do we have here?
This is this is an envelope which has my handwriting on it. It also has the unique case identifying number, which is 0016-08. And in it, it says bullet recovered from spinal column with the date of the autopsy examination. It also has my signature on it. And in it, it says bullet, which would contain the bullet that I recovered from autopsy. Correct, that one, baby.
All right, so this is the projectile that you recovered from Amina Saeed's spinal column, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
This has previously been admitted, I believe, is that correct, Your Honor?
Yes, that's
May I publish to the jury?
You may.
Now, you also talk about no soot or stippling.
Yes,
In one or both of the gunshot wounds?
in both.
In both. Okay. I want to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit. Let me double check my State's exhibits. I think it's 76.
Did she take her glove off yet, or is she just handling? No, oh my gosh. I can't.
Correct. So part of the assessment a forensic pathology forensic pathologist makes when analyzing gunshot wounds is to help determine the distance a gunshot wound is. If there is soot around a wound, it means that it might be a contact gunshot wound. If there is stippling, then it means it's more of an intermediate range shot. If it is distant, it means that it is a further away shot. But a further away shot could mean only up to 18 inches or so. So it is considered a distant range, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's very far away. However, the word distant can also mean that there's an interposed target. So while the wound may not have any soot, stippling, or gunpowder particles around it, if the bullet has passed through clothing, a coat, clothes, shirt, a car, or anything else, then all the soot or stippling would have been picked up by the clothes, and it would not have been seen on the skin. So in this instance, if she was wearing clothes, which she was, then it would have been picked up by the clothes, and we would have not seen it on the skin.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. I mean, she's touching all the evidence envelope. She just held that bullet. Ugh. I feel like I don't know about all this business.
Yes.
This is the as-is photo.
I mean, it just.
Saeed was presented to you as Swift, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and we see that she has a jacket, her belt, and.
As long as she doesn't handle another piece of evidence directly with
Correct.
that,
Okay.
that's
And her hands are
it's
back.
okay. But normally they would
the
take
bag-
their glove off
Yes.
before
The
they
hands are
start
bagged to
touching
the
other
scene
things.
in order to maintain the integrity of any evidence that might be on the hands.
And okay. Let's go to.
Bless you, Alice. That was a
State's
big
Exhibit
sneeze.
73. What are we looking at here?
On this picture, you can see the gunshot wound of her chest as well as the one on her left chest. So,
Can you point it out?
um,
Would this be right here?
yes,
Is that?
that is the one in the center of her chest, the entrance wound that exited her back. Oh, thank you. I missed that somehow.
You
So,
would
yes,
think.
that would be the one, and then this would be the one on the left side of
Sam,
her
you
chest,
would
the other
think.
entrance wound. Yes, ma'am.
And in States Exhibit 71, what are we looking at here? Oops.
Okay, on this one, it shows the exit wound, which is right here.
Now, on States Exhibit 73, we just have another view of gunshot wound 1 and gunshot wound 2.
Right here and right here.
And just, what is this?
That is a foam, FOAM cone. That is what happens when you get pulmonary edema, which is lung swelling, mixed with blood as a person is dying. And it looks very sort of frightening and absurd. It's very scary looking, but that's all that is as she's passing away and still breathing, that comes out of the nose. So that's purge and blood and pulmonary fluid that is coming out of her nose.
And on States Exhibit number 70, this is another part of the as-is photo, would that be correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the bottom half.
Yes.
All right, but it also shows gunshot wound number 2, is that correct?
Yes, it's right here.
All right, and gunshot wound number 2, that's the one that you recovered the projectile in your spinal.
Right. Yes.
I wish they had a different camera angle for in front of the defense table so we could see Mr. Syed. It's difficult. It looks like he's not looking.
States Exhibit
Let me turn this
74.
down because I feel like I'm hollering.
Do you recognize this?
I do.
Is this part of your report?
It
It's
is.
been blown up.
Yes,
All right, do you think seeing this in larger fashion could help aid the jury in your testimony?
I do. This aids helps me look at and understand where the gunshot wounds are in relation to the area on the body. This is what I refer to as a body diagram, and it shows where the gunshot wounds are in relation to the different areas on the body.
But
Yes, ma'am.
I,
And it, again,
it
has the
looks
case
like
identifying
he's not
information on it.
looking, but I can't be sure. It's difficult to say, and it would be better if there was a camera in front.
Exhibit 74 is admitted for all purposes.
And let's see, just for a minute. On States Exhibit 74, this wasn't too complicated, correct?
No, ma'am.
What do we see? Can you just explain to the jury what you're trying to show with these body diagrams?
Yes. So with the body diagram, it's just a schematic. So it doesn't always draw a person's habitus exactly correct. But what this shows you is where the entrance and exit wounds are in relation to where they were on the body. So as you see here, one of the entrance wounds was in the center of the chest, labeled entrance GSW is my gunshot wound. And then you see on the left sort of lower chest area entrance gunshot wound on the left. And then the exit gunshot wound is over here. And then you have to remember that when the body, this is the back, so this is the right side over on this side. So the exit gunshot wound is up here on the right side of her back.
Thank you.
Still with the same glove.
All right, and we do have
Oh,
in States Exhibit 76, the clothing that you collected, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So the jacket that she was wearing that day that we saw in the photos.
Right.
Okay, and okay,
oh my gosh, I can't, you guys.
is that a possible defect?
Yes.
Okay.
I think there was one on the lower part.
Like here? No.
Yep.
Do you need gloves?
Where's that fuzz?
I mean, what's the point now? You've done taken that card that
Did you see the
display
possible
down.
defects on the clothing? Permission to publish to the jury.
Well, you're already publishing to the jury, so hold on. Let me see what's going on with the.
Your Honor, I apologize. This is been in for record purposes. I thought it was all purposes when I relooked at the thing. At this time, I would like to offer States Exhibit 76, the clothing,
Let's see if it catches up.
for all purposes.
States Exhibit 76 previously admitted
For whatever
record
reason,
purposes, is now
on
admitted
their end,
for all purposes.
it's
Do you have to continue to publish, Your Honor?
stuck.
All right. Jacket and the defect on
There
the
we go.
sides.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if she changed her gloves because see, initially she was only wearing the one glove, but she put gloves on at some point and then removed the display of the diagram with the gloved hand and then took out the evidence from the brown paper bag. I've just never seen that done before either. There's a lot of nevers and never seen ever in this dadgum trial already. And we're on day 4. This is a huge issue.
In the clothing that she was wearing also, the shirt that she was wearing that was pulled up, is that correct?
Yes.
I mean, they'll be able to reuse
Yes,
it. I didn't see her unglove and handle it with fresh gloves either. This is a huge problem. Because it's not that the evidence can't be retested, but let me tell you what's going to happen. Anybody that handled that display, that exhibit, is going to have to submit their DNA.
What else do you collect, Dr. Brzezinski? What else do you collect or what else do you do in your autopsy?
So in this instance, or in this autopsy, I collected a gunshot residue kit, the bullet. I collected a head hair standard, a blood standard card, the clothing, and fingernails.
All right,
Fingernail
what's that
clippings.
standard
Yes, for a homicide case like this, yes.
do?
Why is
Do you
nobody
also
stopping
do an
her?
internal examination?
Yes.
Why would you do an internal examination? I think you've already
Hey,
said
Melissa
something.
Jade, I think I hear her in
Well,
the
for several
background
reasons.
taking those gloves off.
First of all, of course, to determine the path of the projectile and whatever injuries there were, but also to determine any other evidence of natural diseases or anything else that was happening. And then also as part of the internal examination, and we also would collect
right,
at
babe.
the time of the autopsy toxicology. We would collect specimens for blood, urine, vitreous fluid, any specimens available in order to send them to the laboratory to test them to see if there were any medications or drugs on board the body at the time of the death.
Okay, did you find any evidence of disease or defect in the internal examination besides the 2 gunshot wounds?
No,
To the perfectly healthy 18-year-old?
correct.
Did you find any evidence of prohibited substances or alcohol in her toxicology?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing.
And what would be the cause of death in this autopsy, Dr. Brzezinski?
The cause of death is multiple gunshot wounds,
And what is the manner of death?
homicide.
One more question. You noted that you did take photos and the jury did see photos.
Yes.
Sometimes there are more photos, is that correct?
Yes.
To your recollection, were there more photos in this case?
Yes.
Okay. But those photos did not make it to the report, is that correct?
I don't know where the rest of the photos are. I took more photos at the time of the autopsy.
But the photos that we did show the jury shows 2 gunshot wounds, correct?
Yes.
And the acid photo was what you took when Lena Side was presented to you at the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
All right. And Dr. Brzezinski is a firearm, a deadly weapon?
Yes.
Maybe I didn't make it clear to the jury. When we were talking about no sort of stippling and I brought out the jacket,
Mhm.
is that type of jacket, and you said clothing, and that type of jacket potentially an interceding target to, that would collect on its own the soot of the stippling instead of landing on the skin?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor. Pass the witness.
Thank you. Defense?
Doctor, thank you for coming here today. I understand that it's been a long time since you did this autopsy, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
When did you do the autopsy? What time of day?
I did the autopsy on January 2nd, 2008 at 7:45 in the morning.
Okay. And what was the state of rigor in the body? Rigor mortis, you call it rigor mortis, y'all call it rigor?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Let's see. I described it as rigor mortis is developed and broken with ease.
I'm sorry?
I described it as rigor mortis is developed and broken with ease.
And what does that mean?
That just meant that it has started to develop and that I was able to break it when I was doing the autopsy.
Okay. And we noticed that the hands were bagged. I believe it was state exhibit number 4, something like that. When the body was first examined by you, and what is the purpose of that?
The hands are bagged at the scene in order to protect the integrity of any evidence that might be on the hands. And then what happens is that when I get the decedent, we will go ahead and remove the bags in order to collect the gunshot residue kit and collect the fingernail scrapings and clippings and things like that.
And you yourself don't do that testing of those items. You send those off to another department there in SWIFT, the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, talking about the soot and stippling that may be on a body or may not be, You showed us how interceding clothing can absorb that soot and stiffness. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you make a visual examination of it. Do you ever send the clothing itself off from whatever part that is to see if it's in fact soot or stiffness?
I collect the clothing as evidence, and again, it's sent off to the laboratory, and then if whoever is in charge will order that testing as they see fit. I don't do that ordering. That's not part of my purview.
And you're familiar with the way things ran back in Swiss back then. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're familiar also with a condition where if a person is shot and is dying and is bleeding out, they can perceive things wrongly. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what you mean by the question, sir.
Well, they may say, my father shot me, when in fact, the father did not shoot them. Right? That's got a name.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Are you asking? You'll
Don't
have to
help
ask me the
him.
question in a different way.
Right. You don't know when this body was shot.
I do not know that.
Okay. You don't know how long before you did the autopsy this body was shot.
I wouldn't know that. Correct.
Okay. And if, for instance, there is evidence that that person or another person said to somebody, my father was the one that shot me. That may not be correct, right? Because they're hallucinating, they're having auditory hallucinations, they're bleeding out. And in your testimony, you showed us how the lungs of this person or this person were filling up with blood, right? That may not be correct. It can be that they're suffering from auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations, everything else.
I'm going to object to this line of questioning as it only can produce a what if. She as a medical examiner doesn't have any information to answer any kind of question like this one. It is broad and it's specific and it's just elicited for her to go, I guess anything's possible.
Mr. Lawler,
I do not think
narrow
she's
your
qualified.
question, rephrase your question.
Does the lack of oxygen to the brain, can it cause altered mental states?
Yes.
That's all I'm going to ask you about that. Now, the circumstances of you leaving.
Oh, here we go.
Swiss, I think we need to go into that. You're familiar with the allegation that has been made by the people at Swiss, or superior at Swiss, that you falsified documents. And those documents had to do with time you took off. Okay, is that correct?
Well, to be clear, that I took a sick day instead of a vacation day, not that I falsified documents.
Well, the allegation is that you falsified documents. When you submit those leave requests, I work for the county, I work for the county now. Okay? When you submit those leave requests, you can put down, I'm taking off for medical intervention. And in fact, you're going on vacation. That's not true, number one. Is that correct? And it's a lie, number two. And it can get you prosecuted, it can get you prosecuted. Right?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. She's already answered the question. She answered it on direct and she's already answered it on cross-examination.
Overruled.
Oh,
I did not falsify documents. I took a sick day, which I still maintain that I had every right to take.
And they differ in that opinion.
Yes.
Here. Now, who was the chief medical examiner during the time you were at the medical examiner's office here in Dallas?
Dr. Jeffrey Bernard.
Jeffrey Bernard. And he's still there today.
Yes, sir.
And gosh, I think he's been chief medical examiner here in Dallas since the 80s. Is that correct?
A long time.
Long time.
Yes.
Okay. And was it to the point, did that to get to the point where the district attorney's office was notified that you had falsified documents? To the point where
oh
they
boy.
got to disclose it as Brady information.
Objection. It's like she has no way to answer this.
You know that?
Overruled. Overruled.
You know that you've been the subject of a Brady disclosure by the state.
I do know that I'm a subject of a Brady disclosure regarding the sick day that I took. Yes.
So it had nothing to do with you testifying in other counties and moonlighting on your own?
I was allowed to moonlight on my own. I was allowed to do that under the terms of my job at Dallas County. There was no problem with that.
No problem with that?
Correct. Correct.
Okay, all right. Now, after you left Swiss, I'm sorry, I need to back up. You were given the choice, either resign or be fired.
That was correct. Yes.
And who was that given to you by?
Dr. Bernard.
Dr. Bernard, the chief medical examiner,
Yes,
okay? And you chose to resign that day right then,
yes.
okay? Now, how many cases do you think that you were undergoing or reviewing or writing reports on at that time you resigned?
I probably still had about 100 or so that I didn't finalize because I started them and I was still waiting on toxicology or other, lab tests to come back. And so I hadn't finished the reports on them yet.
And how many do you think there were?
I believe I just said 100 or so left.
100 or so. And naturally, you can assume that those cases were divided up among the other medical examiners who worked there, right?
I do not know who finished them because I offered to finish them before I left and they said that they would take care of them.
You had left, and so something happened to the cases that you're waiting on final reports on. Is that correct?
Yes,
It's a better way to ask
Something
this.
happened to them,
correct.
okay? And
That'll be more clear to the jury.
The autopsy report would have to be written by whoever,
That is correct.
whoever inherited your cases,
Right.
correct? Okay. I think that's all the questions we have this time.
Thank you. State.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. May this witness be released?
Yes, this
All right.
witness can be released.
All right.
All
Mr.
right.
Wallen, may this witness be released?
Can I have just a moment, John?
They gonna release her or what?
We do have one more question, Your Honor. You want to go ahead and ask that?
And you've passed the witness and the state had no further questions.
Okay. Well, we have one further question.
So then don't release her.
He's the lead prosecutor in this because some other
You can-
attorney had a, did I say that? Well, the lead defense attorney. And I have no further questions for this witness.
All right. You're free to leave, doctor.
Judge, is she subject to recall?
Yes, if you, do you want to recall her at a later point?
Well, I'm asking another question.
Well,
You can
then recall her.
Later. Okay. Thank you, doctor.
Even I know how
Please,
this
stay
works.
in touch with the state in case you need to be recalled, okay?
You better answer the judge, ma'am. All right. Whew. Okay, so now we're not done yet. But wait, there's more. Now we're gonna go to day 2. And we're gonna hear. Oops. I went too many. I backed up too many days. My bad. Give me just a sec. Okay. Here we go. And we are going to hear from Amina's boyfriend, which I already. All right. Oh boy, hold on a minute. I lied. Can't go to day 2. We have to start him at day 1 because day 2 is cross exam. So we're going to start at day 1, and that's also not day 1. Day 1. Here we go. All right. Here we go. Thanks y'all for hanging in there with me and being patient while I get these this testimony up for you. Okay. Make this full screen. Add it to the stream. Hold on a second. He's testifying for a long time. Oh, wait, there's a break. All right. You know what? We may have to break him up just a little bit because I do have stuff I have to get done during like today. And then I still got stuff I got to do for the live. I don't know. I'll figure it out. If we have to break it up, I'll go live like, I don't know, right after or right before. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
That's what.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Will you pull the mic a little bit closer?
Is that better?
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay. Eric, will you please state your first and last name for the court, spelling your first and last name for the court report?
Eric Uriel Panamino, ERIK PANAMENO.
And Eric, how old are
I'm 32 years old.
you? Are you married?
No,
Do you have any kids?
no.
Do you work?
Yes,
Okay, what do you do for a living?
I unload trucks.
And do you know why you're here testifying here today?
Yes,
Okay. So we'll get right to it. Eric, tell the jury how you came to know Sarah Saidi. Where did you first meet?
Kroger, first job I ever had.
How old were you?
About 16 to around 18, 17, I believe, when I first met them.
Okay.
They just started working there.
Who started working?
Amina and Sarah both.
So you were working there before them,
Yes,
okay? And what did you do at Kroger? What was your job?
I was grocery bagger.
What did Amina do?
She was a cashier.
What about Sarah?
She was also a cashier.
Did you also go to school with girls, Amina and Sarah?
Yes,
But you first met them at work.
yes,
Where did you go to school?
Louisville High School.
And were you in similar classes with Amina and Sarah?
No, they were smarter than I was.
So what kind of classes did they attend?
AP biology, if I remember correctly, and a history class, tennis for Sarah, and I wasn't too familiar with Amina's schedule.
Okay. So you had a closer relationship with Sarah.
Yes,
At one point, did you guys start dating?
yes.
How did that come about?
Amina introduced us,
Where did she introduce you?
well, at work, because we couldn't let anybody know.
What do you mean by you couldn't let anybody know?
Thank you, Amelia. Hold on, I'm gonna push pause real quick. There's we don't. Where are you, Allie? Nobody had. We all don't. We all kind of have the same theory, babe. This was allegedly an honor killing. I'm gonna. We're gonna still. I'm gonna cover this case until it ends. However, there's a really good documentary on it. I believe it's on Prime. It's called The Price of Honor, and it really goes into the backstory and all of this. So that's that. All right, here we go. Let me take this down so you guys can see. All right, here we go.
They told me that their father was not cool with the Native Americans, and I was like, okay. So.
Oh, that's weird. Hang on just a second.
Okay.
I don't know why it
So
did.
Amina introduced you to Sarah at Kroger's?
Yes,
Okay. Did you tell Sarah you liked her, or did you tell Amina that you liked Sarah?
I'm glad you said something. It might be because why is this muted? What the heck? Oh, maybe they're just waiting for something. Okay, hold on. Let me fix it. I'll get it for you. Amelia, you don't have to look me up. I need to fix it on Nightbot. Thank you. All right, hold on. Let me push mute. I don't see my little, oh, there it goes. Yeah, my little thing is moving. They're at a sidebar. Okay, I always panic.
first met Sarah, did you tell Amina you were interested in her, or did you directly tell Sarah?
I told Amina,
Why was that?
I wasn't that good at talking to girls,
Okay.
and she was willing to help me out.
What did she say to you?
That she got my back.
She said, I got you, right?
Yeah.
I got you. So did she introduce you to her sister?
Yes.
Okay. And you said Sarah was a cashier?
Yes.
Was she a good cashier?
Not starting, but eventually.
Did you help her out?
Yes.
So you guys started dating.
Yes.
Was it normal dating life? Were you able to take her out to get ice cream?
No.
Go to the movies?
No.
Why was that?
She didn't want her dad to find out. She stressed it a lot that if he did something that would happen to me or something that would happen to her.
Okay. So how would you guys hang out? When did you guys hang out?
School bus to school in the mornings, between class periods, and 10 minutes before somebody picked her up after school.
Okay, so I clicked it. That one is a good link, babe.
We didn't really talk that much in person.
Thank you for letting me know the other one is an error. I'll fix it on Nightbot.
So everything was in secret.
Yes.
Were you ever able to go to her house?
No.
Did you ever see the defendant, Yaser Saeed?
I think I saw him once walking through the store. Other than that, I didn't try to meet him.
Has Sarah told you to stay away?
Yes.
Tell the jury a little bit about Sarah's personality.
Bubbly. She kind of seemed like a tomboy princess. Dressed very well, and I don't know, just had a kind heart. Like, she really tried to help people out. I don't know if it was just how she was, or because it's what she liked to do, but she helped me out too, so. She was really nice.
Did you love Sarah, Eric?
Yes.
Did y'all make promises to each other
Yes.
about your futures together?
Yes.
What were some of those promises?
She said she was gonna go to college. I said I was gonna do my best. Hopefully down the road we have kids. I said I wanted a girl. She said she didn't really care. But we talked about going to the same college. So she wanted me to get my grades up so I could join her.
Y'all gonna get married?
Yes.
This is sad. He really did love her and like her.
Did you get to have a relationship with her sister, Amina?
We talked a little bit, but we really didn't hang out. I mean, there was no time or the place. But the first few times I did actually talk to her, she seemed like a real big sister looking out for her little ones. And she was always trying to offer me advice too, so.
Were you and Amina the same age?
Yeah.
So y'all were in the same grade?
Yes, I was a senior.
And Sarah was a year younger?
Yes.
Tell the jury about Amina's personality.
I really didn't know her that well, but smart. Like, she was always making plans and stuff and trying to figure out her future, you know. Even after, before all the it's going to, headstrong, confident, kind and happy. That's what she seemed like to me.
You said Amina was headstrong?
Yeah.
So Sarah and Amina were a little different.
Yes.
At some point, after you made these promises with Sarah that y'all were gonna go to college and have a future together, was this ever communicated to her parents, Patricia or Yaser?
I don't know.
Okay. Was there ever a time where Patricia gave you guys a rating and was okay with you guys being married?
During the trip to Oklahoma, it was brought up, I wanted to try to get my own, but they offered
Okay.
because they knew what we were trying to do.
And I want to talk to you about that trip to Oklahoma. Whose plan was it to leave?
I mean, that's,
Amina's. She's a planner?
yeah.
Okay. And how did you get involved in the trip? Were you asked to go?
No, I wanted her to go. I didn't want to leave her.
You don't want to leave Sarah?
Yeah. Yes.
Was Patricia always part of the plan? Was she set to go with you guys as well?
I don't know when they talked to her, but she was part of it, yes.
And who else was part of the plan to leave?
Amina, Edgar, Sarah, and I, and Patricia.
Now, who was Edgar?
He was the guy that was dating Amina.
Did you know Edgar prior to you leaving to go to Oklahoma?
No.
So you just met him for the first time when all of you decided to leave?
Yeah.
Was Edgar your age or older?
He was older than I was.
So it's Amina, you, Sarah, Edgar, and Patricia,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? Did y'all leave in one vehicle?
Yes.
Who was driving? Do you recall?
Edgar,
Did you leave in Edgar's car?
yes.
Was it Edgar's truck?
I think it was his or his parents,
Okay, possibly his dad's.
possibly.
Where did you go?
First, we went to Kansas, tried to regroup, figure things out, and then we went to Oklahoma.
Why did you guys go to Kansas? Did Patricia have family in Kansas?
Yes.
You don't stay there very long.
No.
Why is that?
I think we thought if we kept moving, it'd be hard to find us.
So where did you go after you left Kansas?
Oklahoma.
Any particular reason that you?
Thank you
went to
so much, Amelia. So sweet of you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Didn't want to get too far. I think she figured it was like, if we go too far, then he'll just keep searching, but if we stay close, we might be able to keep an eye on him. Or one of those situations where, least suspected kind of places. Because it was close to Texas, so we assumed he wouldn't think that that's where we went to stay over.
Okay. Where in Oklahoma did you go?
I think Oklahoma City.
Okay. Are you sure?
No.
Okay. But you know you were in Oklahoma.
Yes.
And what was the plan? You're 18 at the time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Nina's 18?
Yes.
Sarah's a minor, she's 17.
Yes.
Edgar, do you know how old he was?
19.
19? And you have Patricia.
Yes.
What is the plan when you all get to Oklahoma? What do you do?
Well, find a place to stay, get jobs, and hopefully put both of them back in school so they can go help people out.
What do you mean by go help people out?
They were trying to be doctors.
That was your dream?
Yes.
So your motivation is to go to Oklahoma, get a job, and support Sarah so she can pursue her dreams.
Yes.
Were your parents okay with you leaving?
They trusted my judgment, but they hoped for the best. But no, they weren't too supportive of it. But they did offer me some money and people to call in case I need help, like other family members.
So did you find jobs?
No.
Did you find a place to stay?
Yes.
Okay. Was it an apartment?
Yes.
How many bedrooms?
I think 2.
Was there lease on?
Yes.
Did you get furniture?
A table and a bed and a TV. I think that's about it.
And when you all left, do you remember about what date it was, what time it was?
No.
Okay. When you left to go to Kansas into Oklahoma?
No.
Okay. Do you recall if it was around holiday time?
It was before Christmas.
Okay. Did the defendant, Yaser Saeed, know that you all had left? Did Amina, Sarah, and Patricia tell
That's
them?
speculation.
Sustained.
Eric, do you know the reason why you all left?
Yes,
Who was that?
Amina gathered all of Edgar and Sarah and I together and said that her dad pulled a gun on her and she was afraid that he was gonna kill her.
And that frightened her enough for you all to leave?
That scared me too.
Did you keep phones on you while you were gone?
No,
Why is that?
we seen movies, tracking, we were young, we didn't want to be found, so we got rid of it.
So you saw this on movies?
Yes,
You didn't want to be tracked. Who did you want to be tracked by?
her dad's family side,
Her dad.
yes,
Objection, leading. Answer the question, for dad's family side.
Overruled.
At some point, Eric, do you all decide to come home?
it wasn't a group decision.
Tell the jury about that.
It wasn't a group decision. I think Sarah kind of wanted to try to fix things, and Patricia convinced us all to go back thinking that it would be safe.
How did you feel about that?
I didn't have an opinion of it. I was like, I didn't know. I didn't have an opinion of it, whether it was good or bad. I was just hoping that it would turn out right.
So you were hoping for the best.
Yes,
When you got back to Louisville, did you stay with Sarah or did you guys separate?
we separated.
Where did she go and where did you go?
I went to my house, and Sarah went to her house.
Did y'all remain in contact?
We tried, yes.
Did you get a new phone or how did you remain in contact?
I got my mom's phone. She had an extra.
Do you remember about when you came back?
No,
Do you remember how long you were gone? A few days, a few weeks?
I want to say like 4 days.
So you think about your mom's phone
Yes,
and you began communicating back with Sarah.
yes.
Did everything seem like it was all right?
The fact that I was able to communicate with her and her dad knowing, I thought everything was. But as soon as Amina went back, that's when everything changed.
Well, let me ask you this. Had you been able to communicate freely with her prior to this, where her dad knew?
No,
Because everything was in secret.
yes,
Then all of a sudden you come home, she comes home, and now it's okay.
yes,
It's okay for you to communicate with Sarah.
yes,
And the defendant knows.
yes,
So you think it's okay.
yes.
Okay. You mentioned Amina. So Amina didn't go home immediately like Sarah?
Yes, she did not go home.
Where was Amina?
She stayed with Edgar.
She stayed with Edgar.
Yes,
At Edgar's home?
yes.
And answer this if you know, okay? Do you know if Amina wanted to return home?
I do not know.
At some point, do you find out that Amina returned home?
Nonstop mom, I 100% agree with you. I this is it's very confusing to me as well. And after Eric testifies, Edgar, which is Amina's boyfriend, testifies, and I want to hear more about what they say, but I find it interesting that Eric is testifying that his testimony is that Patricia convinced them to go back, that it would be safe. That's very telling. That's an interesting choice of words. You know what I'm saying? All right, here we go. Excuse me, let's listen.
Overruled.
At some point, do you find out if Amina returned home?
No,
When's the next time you ever hear or see Amina and Sarah?
I don't.
What was the last conversation or the last time you saw Sarah?
It was just small text at night telling that we miss each other. But that was pretty much it.
How did you come to find out about the murder of Amina Saeed and Sarah Saeed?
I agree with this, Summer Lilacs. I think that there are a lot of things occurring within the group of them, being Patricia, Amina, Sarah, Edgar, and Eric, during this 4 days. Then I feel like for the girls and for their mother as individuals, there are things going on. There's a lot of emotions, interpersonal relationships, all, and then layers, all like happening simultaneously over this 4-day period. But one thing that's been stuck in my craw since I heard Patricia's testimony is the phone call. That's still stuck in my craw. There's something just a little tiny bit off about it to me. And I I can't quite put my finger on it or articulate it effectively at all. And usually that's not a problem for me, but there's this something is not sitting right with me about that phone call, and I'm mulling it over as I listen to more testimony and stuff, and hopefully it will come to me and I'll be able to articulate it in a more effective, clear manner. But yeah. All right, let's keep going, because I want you guys to, and I want us to hear this. I want to hear it.
My cousin's house is right across the street from them. So I saw the cops there. And it pretty much just gets from there that something had happened. I went to Edgar's house. And then we went to the police station, and that's when they told me. That they were gone.
Did you go to the police station with Edgar?
Yes.
Does it say that in more questions?
Were you questioned by anybody at the police station or VPD?
No.
Okay. Now, Eric, there was some question and dispute about whether or not you had seen the girls prior to the murder. I think we've established that now. You said the last time you saw them was with the texting on the cell phone.
Yes.
To be clear on the record, were you ever in a car with Edgar when you saw the girls in the cab with Yaser Saeed?
No.
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 So that was not you.
That was not me.
Did you tell the police that?
I didn't even talk to them really after they told me that shit happened.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you all want a break at this time, 15-minute break? Or do you want to plow through cross-examination? You want a break? Does anybody want a break? Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Lowell. Oh, did somebody raise their hand? Okay. Let's take a 15-minute break. Let's be back at 3 o'clock.
Actually, Summer, you spelled that correctly. Sam, to answer your question, yes, Patricia has been questioned. She, when I started, okay, at the end of my live last night, I played her direct examination, and at the beginning of my live this morning, I played her cross examination. And during the opening statements, the defense team essentially said that Patricia Saeed, who is now going by Patricia Owens, I think that's her maiden name, or maybe she's remarried. I don't remember. But anyway, that's what she's going on. He said that basically Patricia was one statement away from catching charges herself, and that her story has changed a lot over the years. So no, babe, I know that you were sleeping, so I'm not giving you a hard time, but if you want to hear it, I'm just trying to help you if you want to hear what she said. Just so you can go back and listen. And yes, in the documentary that is discussed, Amelia, the fact that Yaser did have plans to take the girls to Egypt, and there was some arranged marriages that were probably going to take place. Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot. Oh, you're welcome, babe. I just hope that we can get your sleep zone back right again, whatever right is, so that you get good, restful, recuperative sleep, because that's so important. Besides, I need for you to get the good rest of recuperative sleep, because we have many rabbit holes to go down, Sam.
Being examined by the state. The state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hi, Mr. Palomino. My name is Miss Muse, and I have a few questions, okay? And I know this is a tough topic for you, and I apologize in advance for any questions that may hurt your feelings or upset you, okay? But I do have some questions that may go there, all right? First off,
What she means by that, hold on a second.
Sarah, and you said that
What she means by that is we have referred to you multiple times in this trial prior to your testimony, and spoiler alert, after your testimony, as suspects. So we're just going to go ahead and apologize for offending you right now, even though we're going to continue to offend you. Okay.
that y'all were planning on getting married, correct?
Yes.
So y'all were having a sexual relationship at that time, is that right?
Objection, relevant, Your Honor, and improper character evidence.
Sustained.
Judge, can we vote to the
All right, so let me ask the question again. Were you and Sarah having sex?
Yes.
And when it comes to your relationship, when y'all met, you said y'all worked at Kroger together. Did Patricia work at Kroger as well?
Yes,
So when you saw Yaser at Kroger the one time, there weren't any issues, right?
I mean, that is absolutely an excellent observation and point, Nonstop Mom. And up until this point, the only testimony we've heard about the way that Yaser received the girls when they came home was that he was welcoming and it was all good, right? What we don't know, and maybe we will at some point, maybe there's some evidence someplace that that the state intends to provide, is there were so there were conversations that were had between Yaser and Sarah at the home in the backyard. And then when Amina got home, there were conversations had at that point as well. And the only three people who know what was said in those conversations are Yaser Said, Amina Said, and Sarah Said, right? And the only one that's alive still to testify or to tell to relate those or relay those conversations is Mr. Said, who has a motive to lie. So I know that Patricia testified to a video that was made and put on a thumb drive. Maybe that will get played and maybe we'll get to see it. I don't know. I hope so.
yes.
There were issues,
But
or there were not?
No, I did not.
That
have
would
issues with
definitely
anything.
make
I had
a
issues with-
And he didn't have any issues with anybody in the store, is that right?
that would be a definite
Who's at the
issue.
store? Where his wife and his two daughters work.
Yes,
And that was the one time you saw him at that Kroger, the whole time you worked there with Sarah.
yes,
In regards to having sexual relationships with other girls, did you have any sex with other girls before you?
Objection relevance, and this is outside the scope of what was discussed earlier, Judge.
Your Honor, I want to get into his experience with teenage girls and whether their parents had any problems with them having sex with a guy.
Your Honor, we have an agreement.
So, pronounce your last name for me, so I don't.
Anamino,
Anamino. How did you meet Edgar?
and we were talking to, it was when we had the group meeting of, when Amina told us that her dad blew a gun on her. That's pretty much the first time that I met Edgar because he did it at his home. We talked about the plan of leaving.
Okay, well, so let's go into that day. How did you end up getting, you said you were at Edgar's home and
Yes.
had this plan?
Yes.
And how did you get to Edgar's home?
I walked.
Your mom?
I walked.
You walked. And who told you to go over there?
If I remember correctly, I received a text from Edgar, random number, and explaining
Explain what?
that we were having a meeting and who was gonna be there.
Did he explain to you who he was?
Yes,
And then he gave you his address and you just had your mom, or you walked over there?
yes,
And that was the first time you met him?
yes.
And at that meeting, what day was that?
I don't know.
Around what day? Was it in 2007, 2006, 2000?
2007 before Christmas,
How many days before Christmas do you recall?
probably 2 weeks.
And was Patricia present?
No,
And who was present in the home when y'all planned the getaway?
Edgar, Amina, I, and Sarah.
And Edgar and Amina, you said, had a relationship with one another. Is that correct?
Yes,
Did Joseph Moreno's name ever come up in any conversations that you had with Sarah or Amina or Edgar?
I don't know.
You don't,
I can't say that because I don't remember,
you don't remember ever hearing about a Joseph Moreno, Jojo?
but I don't even know who that is.
Okay. Did you ever ask Sarah and Amina why they moved to Louisville from Bedford?
I did not ask.
What did you said that Sarah and you would talk here and there at school,
Yes,
and that's the extent of your dating relationship, is that right?
yes,
At that age, was it normal for people to go to each other's homes and have sexual relations with each other? when their parents know about it?
I don't know.
Objection, relevance, Your Honor, same running objection.
The same.
You said that you were told that Yaser didn't want his daughters dating American guys.
Yes,
Did anybody ever say specifically, like, Yaser didn't want his daughters dating guys that weren't into education in school?
no,
Did Amina and Sarah ever present that school was very important to Yaser and then completing school and becoming something of themselves?
no,
And so the only explanation that you know is that Yaser didn't want them dating American boys. Is that your understanding?
that's what Sarah told me.
And Yaser never said anything like that to you, right?
I never talked to him.
He never approached you or threatened you with a gun?
He didn't know who I was.
Throughout the Irving police report, there's statements that, you know, he was threatening about y'all's relationship. So that's not true, right?
It was true, considering that he would make continuous threats, whether it didn't matter to them or him, who it was, as long as they were American, he wouldn't approve of it.
Did you ever hear him make these threats over a telephone call or anything?
No.
Recording?
I was only told this by Sarah.
And Amina and Sarah both had cell phones at one point, is that right?
Yes,
And they never called 911 about their father, is that right?
I don't know.
They never told you that they called the police on their father, is that right?
Yes,
And you have never seen any bruises on them when you were around them, is that right?
yes,
And you never saw any cuts on Amina or Sarah the times that you saw them, is that right?
yes,
Let's talk about now. Y'all made the plan to go to First Kansas, is that right?
yes.
And y'all were going to Kansas to do what? Somebody's house? I heard a mobile home was involved. Do you know whose home y'all went to?
Patricia's family members,
Did you get to meet them?
shook their hands, that's about it.
And so when y'all went to Kansas, everybody met Patricia's family members, but then the girls didn't want to stay there, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't they want to stay there?
They didn't feel safe,
Because why?
because they felt that any place that's connected to her dad in some form or fashion, or he knows of it, could mean that they'll be found and taken back.
So I went through a lot of evidence from Irving police in this case that doesn't ever say that. And they've spoken to you a few times, is that right? Irving police?
No,
How many times did you speak to them?
just that one time,
The one time
they told me that Sarah and Amina's dead.
when you were at the police station with Edgar,
Yes,
the night
yes,
of the alleged offense, right?
yes,
So in that statement to police, it explains, or there were explanations to the police that y'all left Kansas because they didn't like the mobile home and they didn't want to live inside the mobile home. Is that right? Or is that wrong when the police say that's the reason for leaving Kansas?
I don't know.
Your position is that because of safety reasons.
Yes,
Okay, and then after y'all left Kansas for that reason, y'all went off to Oklahoma, right?
yes,
And they didn't know anybody in Oklahoma, neither did you.
correct,
That's what you're saying right now.
yes,
So Patricia doesn't have any family in Oklahoma at all.
that I know of, no. She does not have any debt,
Who got the apartment?
and we all contribute. But I think,
Financially?
yes, financially, we all
Who had what
contribute.
money? Who had how much money?
I can't remember the exact numbers, but I didn't really spend any money when I worked, and Edgar, I think he was doing pretty well, so we both pretty much put in everything we could, along with Amina and Sarah.
What did Edgar do for a living at that time?
I don't know.
But he was doing well. He had a lot of money.
I'm assuming because he had a house and his parents were taking care of him, that he was doing pretty okay.
And whose name was on the lease for the apartment in Oklahoma?
I don't know.
If the statement report says that. Did Patricia have a lot of cash with her at the time?
I don't know.
Did you see any cash?
No, I didn't see any. I was not focused on that as well.
So when y'all went shopping, who was paying for things, for furniture?
We shopped differently, but I went to Sarah, found things we needed.
And you paid for that furniture when you were with Sarah?
Yes,
And then Edgar and Amina, did they go together and go shopping?
I'm not really too sure.
Did you ever go shopping with them?
No,
So y'all purchased all the furniture for the home in Oklahoma, the apartment in Tulsa. And then all of a sudden the girls wanted to leave? I'm not understanding how.
Oh, wow.
that came
Autocorrect
about.
really got my last comment, but hopefully you guys
they
can
didn't
make it
want to
out.
leave, more like we were convinced to leave, that it was gonna be safe.
Amina's 18 years old, right? And y'all have, everybody has plans. Sarah has plans with you to get married. What's the point of going back if they have plans to be with you and Edward?
I can only say that we were all scared of the future, the unknown. We were young, we didn't know what was gonna happen next.
So then why would you go back? You left to a different state. You set up a home, like an apartment for your future wife. And then everybody goes back to the gentleman that they're alleging is such an abusive person and so scary. I'm not understanding where this disconnect is. And I need you to clear that up for me and the jury. If y'all are older, y'all are 18, 19 years old, right?
It's not that old, ma'am.
Yes,
Still kids.
And you don't want to go back somewhere. You don't have to. Am I right?
yes.
So then why, I'm not understanding.
Because
You
Amina's
never
not
came
going to
back
leave
for
without her
anybody.
sister. Come
Is that
on now.
Who?
Yes, sir. He never came to you guys in Oklahoma and said, come back home. Is that right?
No, he did not show up personally.
And nobody called to tell, he didn't call to tell you guys to come back home. Is that right?
I would say no.
In your statement, you said Patricia was the one that told them to
Yes.
go back. Yaser's not involved in any of this. I'm trying to clear that up. Is that right? Yaser has nothing to do with you guys going back to Louisville.
Can't be too sure of that. Because I feel like he was talking to Patricia, and that's why she convinced us to come back.
But you don't know that. Is that
I
right?
did not know
But
that.
Patricia was telling you guys she had no contact with them, with him. Is that right?
I don't know.
Let's go on to the ring. You said Patricia was the one that gave you guys a ring. Is that correct?
Yes,
Did you say where the ring came from?
I don't remember.
Now let's talk about some confusion in the police report about, you said the last time you saw Sarah and Amina was when you left and came back home to your parents.
Yes,
Throughout the Irving police report, various detectives and
Well, I'm gonna
officers.
object to hearsay because
How-
it's not admitted into evidence.
I'm not reading anything, Your Honor. I'm asking questions to clear up. So.
How can he be responsible for what's
the
in a police
detective
report
informed
unless it's his
us
statement?
That you were in the car with Edgar when the girls were last seen in the taxi with Yaser. Is that true or not true?
that's not true.
Why is it that that's what
How
the
would
explanation and story was before? And so
Objection,
you spoke to
speculation,
state.
Your Honor. This is not the proper witness to be cross-examined on the detective's police report or what was put in it.
there you go.
How many times you said you went to the police? One time?
Yes,
You spoke to a police officer?
I can't.
well, he spoke to me.
I don't
And-
know bowling with cotton balls. Hang on, let me push pause because this is important.
How did he get?
Okay. I don't know if there was a dowry paid or if the arranged marriages were. All I can say is that the arranged marriages have been alleged and I believe that they were alleged in the documentary because I remember listening or watching that and hearing that. Now, as far as this case goes, at this point, we haven't heard any evidence of arranged marriages. It hasn't been asked by the prosecution with respect to this witness. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that. All right, here we go.
Your address, date of birth, and name if you didn't show him your ID. Did you give him that verbally?
No,
You know that they can look people up.
So your testimony is that
Ma'am.
you never saw the girls in the taxi with Yaser at any point the evening of the offense.
yes,
Ask the witness, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor. Eric, I just have a few questions for you, okay? You were asked by defense counsel if you ever saw any bruises on Sarah. You said no, okay?
Correct.
You were asked if the girls had ever called about any physical abuse. You said no to that? Is that
Correct.
Okay. But were you ever told about any other abuse?
Objection?
Your Honor, the door has been open.
Did not open the door to any of that stuff. It was about the stuff during their relationship is what I asked questions about.
Your Honor,
I actually think on this one, I think the prosecution might be right in that they asked this witness about any past physical abuse, right? If he was told about any, if he saw any bruising or if he was told about any physical abuse, right? So, to my mind, they did open the door by asking those questions. And it's important for the prosecution at this point in the trial to get those allegations out from a witness that is independent of that family, because that statement, that the outcry is problematic for the state in that Patricia recanted on her on the girls' behalves. And so what you have now is a fuckery, for lack of a better word, because the outcry was made. There was an investigation started. When the investigation was started, then there was another report made alleging that Yaser Saeed threatened Patricia, that if she cooperated with this investigation of those SA allegations, that he would unalive her family. So she made a report about it. And then there was other allegations that after that report was made, that there were more threats made, and that ultimately Patricia then recanted the initial report for the SA on her daughter's behalves. And so the state's going to need to get this testimony in from somebody who hasn't been discredited on the stand with respect to the outcry. Meaning, if Eric here was told about it from Sarah, it would have been well after A, the allegations were made, and B, the allegations were recanted. So it would probably, to the juror's mind, mean that that Patricia was under duress when she recanted the statement, the sworn affidavit, or the outcry, I should say. Lordy B, how much longer are we going to be just, hold on a sec.
Thank you, Your Honor. So Eric, you were asked by the defense of any physical abuse. While you were dating Sarah, did she tell you about any physical abuse? And you said no?
Correct.
Okay. You said you had never seen any bruises?
Correct.
Okay. Did Sarah indicate to you that she was scared or fearful of her father?
Yes.
And fearful of what?
She always thought something would happen. She made me promise multiple times that anything ever did happen to her, that I would keep going.
She was fearful that she would be killed, correct?
Yes,
But she wanted you to continue to live your life.
yes,
And who was she fearful that would kill her?
her dad.
Now, Eric, I know you said you were not a good student. Did you have any activities in school? Were you involved in any activities?
I was in NGRTC.
ROTC?
Yes,
Did you ever join the military?
yes,
What branch?
Army.
Did you have an honorable discharge?
Yes.
How'd you get to work every day at Kroger?
It wasn't too far from my home, so I just walked.
Did you work a lot while in school?
Only after school.
About how many hours a week?
Around 20, maybe 16.
And just to clarify, your relationship with Sarah was secret,
Yes,
okay? At some point, this changes and it's all of a sudden okay for you to communicate with Sarah.
yes.
When was that?
When we got back from Oklahoma.
Your Honor, I'll pass the witness.
Thank you, Judge. I do have some questions. Mr. Panavino. Okay. First of all, thank you for your service. My husband's a Marine Corps veteran. And did you ever go get your GI Bill and get your education after your service?
I did a few degrees, nothing concrete.
Did you graduate with any degrees?
HVAC degree?
So, vocational license?
Yes.
Very good. Did Sarah explain to you that the reason why her dad didn't want her dating somebody was because he wanted her to concentrate on school?
She said that he tried to get her married to several people from his homeland. I just assumed that was the reason why.
Did Patricia confirm that that happened?
I never asked.
So there's no confirmation that that statement's actually true. Is that right?
I don't know.
And you described Amina and Sarah kind of, you said headstrong.
Yes,
So I'm trying to understand, I'm Middle Eastern too, just like they were, okay? So headstrong is kind of like how some of the women in Middle Eastern culture are. Would you agree to that?
I never met any, so I don't
Sexual
know.
relevance?
You never, Amina and Sarah from what background?
Muslim American.
And that means their dad is from somewhere
In the Middle Eastern?
Middle Eastern. So that makes them half Middle Eastern, right?
Yes,
And Patricia is Caucasian
yes,
from America?
yes,
Okay. So you're telling, I just want to understand, you're telling me that two headstrong girls that had plans to marry their boyfriends, got themselves an apartment in another state, just decided to go back home just because they thought things were going to be safe. That's your testimony today.
yes,
And there's nothing, no emails or text messages from Mr. Yaser Saeed telling them to come home. Is that right?
yes,
And he never came to Oklahoma to tell them to come back home.
yes.
And he never called or threatened them and told them to come back home.
I don't know, he didn't call.
You never heard
I didn't
Sarah
hear
or
him,
Amina
no.
take a call like of that nature.
No,
And you never heard Patricia take a call of that nature.
no.
Ask the witness.
I think,
No further questions.
I don't, not at the time bowling with cotton balls.
Please call down.
I think that, I think that this was, I think he joined the, army after this.
Thank you, Honor. The state calls Edgar Louise.
Okay, you guys. Edgar is going to testify for another hour today. And then a little bit more, then it'll be cross-examination on the following day. So what I think I'm going to do is, because I really got stuff I have to do around the house and I have to do it. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and end this live. And Christine, G, that's me, and I will be live together at 9 Eastern, going over the Diane Downs parole hearings, the audio of them. So I think what I will probably do is come live again at probably 6 Eastern, depending on how long this testimony is of Amina's boyfriend. So somewhere between 5 and 6 at the very latest. And we'll go through Amina's boyfriend's testimony, direct and cross. And then, of course, I'll end that live. And then I'll be live with Christine G. And we're going to do, like I said, the Diane Downs thing. So I want to thank everyone for being here so much. I appreciate your support. If you haven't already, would you give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if you want, just to see what it does? I don't know. I know when you like a video, it makes a little sparkle, like a confetti thing. I don't know what it does if you thumb down a video, but if you want to see what happens, it's fine, whatever. But if you would do that, please. And also, if you guys have, people that that might be interested, that are interested in this case and want to participate in the conversation, that you share my link out and get some, let them come on in and become part of the Ward fam. We have a good time over here. All right. So thank you again so much, everyone. And I will see you sometime between 5 and 6. I promise. Keep your eyes peeled. Make sure you have your notifications set to all so that you will get notified. However, I want to say this before I forget, because I will forget. I have heard tell that YouTube only allows 3 notifications per 24-hour period. And so you may not get the notification at 5 or 6, whatever time it is. So just kind of keep your eyes peeled on YouTube and my channel. And hopefully if YouTube doesn't give out notifications, you won't miss it. Okie dokie. All right. I'll see y'all in a little while. I just got some stuff I got to take care of. Y'all behave and be safe out on these streets and enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon. Okay, bye.